Yes. What's happening, everybody? It's Tuesday night, 10 o'clock Central Time. We had last week off, but this Saturday coming up, we have UFC Vegas 85, which is going to be headlined by Roman Dolidze versus, why is the name escape? Nasruddin Imavov. Good main event in the middleweight division there. We haven't seen Dolidze for a little bit now, but it's going to be a great fight. And we've got a co-main event of Renato Moicano versus Drew Dober, which really promises to be a Donnybrook. So I'm looking forward to not just the main card of this fight, but I think there's some pretty good matchmaking up and down the card here. I've got a lot of bets already on this card. I've got about 30 pages and notes ready to go for you guys on all 13 fights on this card so that we can break it down statistics-wise, tape study-wise, look at the implied probabilities of the betting lines, and find ways to stack cashed tickets like flapjacks so that we can enjoy watching these fights and make money on them while we're watching them and betting them. Welcome, everybody. If you don't know me, I am your host, Uncle Weezy. I bring a gang of stats every week to the conversation when we talk about these fights. And it's a good week of fights. There's a lot of strong leans that I do have on this card. We're coming off a winning week 2 weeks ago. I'll take you through the results real quick here. We had up 0.7 units, so a small win on about 10.85 units of total bets. Your Uncle Weezy's Bootsy Collins Memorial Dogs Are Barking pick of the week. Sam Petersen at plus 125 came through for us, cashed us 1.25 units. Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week, though, Mayra Bueno Silva fell flat on her face and got beat up pretty good by Raquel Pennington for 4 out of the 5 rounds and lost that fight. Had a really great first round, had her back, had the body triangle in, looking for the rear naked choke, but couldn't finish it. And then from there, it all kind of fell apart like a Chinese motorcycle for poor Mayra Bueno. And now we've got Raquel Pennington in the year of our Lord, 2024, is a champion of the women's bantamweight division. So the winning bets were the under 1.5 rounds in the Malcolm Gordon versus Jimmy Flick fight. We had the Stop the Violence parlay over 2.5 rounds in the Arnold Allen Evloev fight, parlayed with the over 2.5 rounds in the Katona Armfield fight. That cashed for 1.05 units. And then the losing bets were the 2-leg parlay that we finished off the night one with. Both legs didn't cash, which is great for a parlay because, you know, you might as well get them both wrong if you're going to get one of them wrong. Bueno Silva to win did not cash, and neither did fight doesn't go to decision for the main event. Lost 1 unit on Mike Mallet to win and under 1.5 rounds. Lost 0.1 units on Neil Magny to win in round 3 by submission. Neil Magny won in round 3 by KO, so I made a really dumb move there. I should have just bet 1/4 of a unit on Magny round 3 instead of 1/10 of a unit on Magny round 3 sub. I got greedy there and went for 7.5 units, and it cost me. Petersen to win in round 3 at plus 1,400 did not cash for 1/4 unit, and Mallet by first round sub did not win for 1/4 unit. So yeah, up 0.7 units, nothing special, but at least it's a winning week, and we just want to build these winning weeks, and we want to keep them going back to back to back to back. So looking forward to stacking another flapjack on the winning stack this week, and I've got the notes ready for you guys. I've got the picks ready for you guys. I've got a Bootsy Collins Memorial Dogs Are Barking pick of the week set up for you guys, and I have also got Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week in the chamber, ready to go, and I'm confident about it. So I'm fired up to break down these fights with you guys who are here in the chat with me. First one in the room, my guy Cody Blood Money MMA Bets hanging out, saying this show is going to be awesome, just like your show is always awesome. I know we did protect your units earlier with Johnny K. Always an entertaining combo, and I'm going to be breaking down fights with those guys, I believe, for either the UFC 299 card or the 300 card. I forget which, but it is going to be an absolute banger of a panel with me and Brady, Blood Money, and Johnny K. but also it is going to be either one of the two best cards of the year, 299 or 300. So good to see Cody hanging out in here with us. We got my guy Victor De Jesus in the room saying, "Oi, yes, what's up, Weezy in chat? What's up, Vic? Good to see you hanging out in here." We got Arthur Simons in the room saying, "Let's go, Weezy." Good to see you hanging out, Arthur. We got Ryan Suck saying, "What's up, Weezy? Love you, bud. Thank you for hanging out in here with us, Ryan." My guy, Real Deal Prime, always letting us know that wrestling rules. We got the Silly Goose in the room saying, "Happy Pete Rodriguez fight week, y'all. Let's stack them high. Let's get it, dude." And we got Ryan saying, "Uncle Weezy, the GOAT." I don't know about that, but I do like the band GOAT, GOAT. Fantastic psychedelic experimental rock band from Sweden. Fantastic music. But thank you, Ryan, for calling me the GOAT. Appreciate you, brother. We got Easy Bets in the room saying, "What's good, Unc?" What's good is we got fights coming up this Saturday and for the next 11 Saturdays after this Saturday. 12 straight weekends of UFC action, which I think is going to be culminated by UFC 300. So we are in for a wild ride over the next few weeks here, you guys. We got Radoslav Kolev in the room saying, "Oi, let's win this week. Let's get it." We got Real Deal Prime saying, "All ears." He's got the note, the pen pad ready to go here. We got Teron Brown saying, "What up, Uncle?" Tony Ferguson versus Terrence McKinney in the works for UFC 299. Geez, why won't that guy retire? Because they keep paying him to show up. They keep paying him to show up. And they're probably afraid that if they told him, "Hey, Tony, you can't fight anymore, man. We're not going to book you for any more fights. We're tearing up your contract," he would just go someplace else. And there's nothing that the UFC hates more than that, is not being able to lock up their athletes until they are done competing, period. And I think the UFC's unwillingness to let some of these guys go at the end of their career forces them to go 3 or 4 fights past where we all know they should have already quit. Dana taking forever to announce the main event for 300. Yeah, who knows what he has in the works. I'm sure he's got something up his sleeve. And we've got the Cuban assassin in the room saying, "What it do, Weezy? I'm glad the UFC signed that handsome Kayla Harrison. I'm not sold he can make that 135. Yeah, Kayla's got some pipes on her, man. She is built. She is strong. You know, she's been, a judo player for the longest time, 2-time Olympic gold medalist. She's been performing and competing at a very high level for a very long time. You know, if she gets the right people around her, I'm sure they'll probably figure out a way to make that happen. But she's gonna need to take some muscle off of her frame for sure, because she's got entirely too much muscle on. It's not like Kayla's fat, Kayla is a goddamn tree stump. So she is all muscle, and she's gonna have to get some of that muscle off of her frame in order to get down to 135 pounds. So we'll see how that goes. That's going to be the talk of the week, is how Kayla's going to look on the scale in that fight. But yeah, very interesting matchup there with Kayla Harrison against Holly Holm coming up later this year. It's going to be a fun one. But you guys, we got a ton of work to do. We've got 13 fights to break down right now. I'm going to get the stats up here on the screen. All these stats that you always see are available on my Patreon. The address for the Patreon is scrolling across the bottom of the screen. That is the best way to support my work so that I can keep coming up here, showing up for free on YouTube. This way you get something for your money as well. You're not just supporting me, you're getting access to the advanced stats. You're getting access to all the DFS stats that I have available. All of the metrics and benchmarks that I have available for over-under bets coming up in the next couple of weeks, for all of the prize picks props, for all of the significant strikes, takedown, fantasy score props, a ton of DFS information. It's all available on the Patreon. $5, $10, $20 a month, depending on what tier you're on. Get access to some of the best analytics and statistics available, definitely for the price, out there on the web. And I appreciate each and every one of you guys that supports me on the Patreon and allows me to continue to put as much time into writing up these fights and watching all the tape that I do every week for you guys. So I appreciate you. Even if you're not on the Patreon, you can help me out by hitting that like button, by hitting the subscribe button so that you don't miss out on any of the content that's here on my channel. Checking out Pub Sports Radio, where me and Brady do Stat Diggers, where we do the DFS show with Gordo and Monk, and where I do the watch along during the fights on Saturdays. So I appreciate you guys. Leave me a comment down below if you want to do that too. Let me know who your lock of the week is, if there are any strong bets that you're leaning towards this week. I always enjoy talking with you guys in the comments. But let's get to work here. I'm going to share my screen with you all, and we're going to start by talking about the curtain jerker, which is going to be Thomas the Train Petersen making his UFC debut against Jamal the Stormtrooper Pogues. And we're going to first start talking about the advantages that Thomas Petersen has in this matchup. Tom is the southpaw in this southpaw versus orthodox matchup, which is always a matchup, or I mean, it's always an advantage on paper. Tom is a natural finisher. While Pogues has only finished 5 of 10 pro wins, Tom has a 100% finish rate in 8 pro wins, 7 by knockout, 1 by submission. He's got natural power on the feet, and his ground game is excellent. And let me get the line up here. I didn't even get the line there for you guys. Is Thomas Petersen right now? All these lines are courtesy of Bet Online Sportsbook. We've got Thomas the Train Petersen right now, the favorite at -163. The Stormtrooper Pogues +143. Fight doesn't go to decision, sitting right around -115. It's basically a pick 'em here, whether this fight goes to decision or finishes inside the distance. Now, Thomas Petersen, you guys, he's an elite wrestler. He's been wrestling since the age of 3. He's a 2-time Minnesota high school state champion and also a NAIA national champion over at Iowa Central, the school that started the MMA careers of John Jones, Cain Velasquez, Colby Covington, Phil Hawes. Tom has great open mat entries on his single leg takedown attempts, and he does a great job of getting body lock trips and throws as well. Once he gets on top, he's savage with his ground and pound. And when he's on the mat, he really does a great job of maintaining his position while landing strikes, which allows him to advance position. And if he gets to a dominant position, it's usually just a matter of time before he gets your back or pounds you out or both. Although Tom has a short reach for the division at only 72 inches, and his striking is still a work in progress, his constant pressure on the feet and the threat of the wrestling allows him to land that big left hand of his, and he has a ton of power in that hand. He knocked out Kimo Lewis in the first with the first left hand he threw in only 19 seconds. He landed a crushing 1-2 1 minute into the first round versus Vernon Lewis to win the LFA heavyweight championship in January of 2021. While Thomas definitely does his best work on the ground, the pressure and the threat of the wrestling combined with the natural power he has in his left hand make him extremely dangerous wherever the fight goes. Now, Jamal Pogues has got a lot of advantages on paper here. He's 8 months younger than Thomas Petersen. He's going to be 2 inches taller, and he's going to have a 3-inch reach advantage here. And Jamal's got the overall and the UFC experience advantages. He has 5 more pro fights. He's got 90 more minutes of pro cage time in 3 more years as a pro. Jamal also has 2 more fights at the UFC level and 30 more minutes of octagon time as Thomas makes his UFC debut on Saturday. And Jamal will be by far the more technically proficient striker in this matchup and the far more likely guy to win minutes while this fight is on the feet. Jamal is fast. He has a nice jab that he stays behind, and when he puts the 2 behind that jab, which he doesn't do nearly enough, he flashes that same speed and a little bit of power. Thomas relies on landing a big left hand while Jamal is fast, has good footwork, and he can maintain range with that jab and win the minutes of the fight while it's at distance. And Jamal's a well-rounded fighter who can win minutes wherever the fight goes. He's got a 5 wins and 1 loss record to the decision in his pro career, and he's just as comfortable at distance with his boxing as he is wrestling and using his Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu brown belt. Jamal has been a fairly active wrestler in the UFC, and on Dana White's Contender Series, totaling 12 takedowns over 4 fights, if you include the Dana White's fight. And in the UFC, he has 5 takedowns while only yielding 1, and he's out-controlling his opponents 23.67% to 4%, winning over 85% of the control time positions his fights have been in. I think he's at a serious grappling deficiency in this matchup, but you never know. Jamal can wrestle, and his BJJ is solid, having trained under Joe Stevenson for years. And Jamal has fought and beaten the better brand of competition in his pro career, without question. Petersen's wins are trash, frankly, and Jamal has wins over better guys than Thomas does. This is going to be a step up in competition for Thomas to train Petersen, but this is a very interesting matchup. I think Thomas Petersen is a phenomenal prospect. You rarely see high-level wrestling in the heavyweight division, and this kid is a high-level wrestler. On the mat since the age of 3, 2-time state champion, NAIA national champion. He has serious power on the feet and mauling wrestling, top control, and ground and pound. If this kid gets his game going, look out. You're probably in for a short and very painful night. We still have a lot to learn about Thomas Petersen, though. His pro career is only 9 fights and 42 minutes long. His wins are pretty much against guys who are 37 or older, or against guys that were morbidly obese, like Chandler Cole. So this is going to be a big step up in competition for Thomas against the guy who's taller, longer, faster, more athletic, more experienced, and he's the better technical striker and minute winner at distance striking range. And he's fought and beaten the better brand of competition. Jamal has a lot of advantages on paper that need to be respected here. That being said, I feel Petersen is the far more explosive and dangerous fighter wherever this fight goes. On the feet, the threat of the wrestling gives him opportunities to land a knockout blow. And when he gets takedowns and gets to dominant positions, this kid's ground and pound is savage. And it usually finishes fights. Jamal doesn't have the kind of power that worries me, and his conditioning might be better than Tom's, but it's not elite enough that I have to worry about Jamal finishing this fight in the third if Thomas wins the first 2 rounds and gasses out. Jamal's low volume. He lacks power and finishing ability at this level, and Thomas Petersen is the opposite. I'm picking Thomas Petersen to win this fight by first round ground and pound knockout, and I have a 3.5 unit bet on his money line at minus 170. So let me go to the Tapology picks page here. We're going to go to Thomas Petersen versus Jamal Pogues, and I'm taking Thomas to train Petersen to win this fight by knockout in round number 1. Let's see what you guys are saying in the chat here. We've got Yippee Kaye in the room saying, Weezy, this big thanks for your insight and support in the MMA community. Life is good. Thank you for hanging out, Yippee Kaye. I appreciate you, man. Enjoy the show, enjoy the breakdowns, and let's make some money on these fights. We got Jay Jack in the room saying, what's up, Weezy? I like myself and Natalia Silva and Maksum parlay. I don't hate Petersen in there either. Yeah, I'm picking all 3 of them to win here. Yeah, I think that could be a good 3-leg parlay. I mean, Natalia's price, frankly, it's expensive, but I mean, you got to pay up if you want quality. And Natalia Silva, man, she is quality. I can't wait to break down that fight for you guys. I really enjoyed watching tape on her. She's a special prospect. We got I Am the True Walrus in the room saying silent. Oi, what is up, True Walrus? We got my guys, the Chronic Combat Conversations crew in the room saying, oh, baby, let's go, Weezy. Just the tip. Not enough likes on this. The likes will pile up. My audience always takes care of me with the likes. So I appreciate you guys for hanging out. And we got my guy all the way from New Zealand, Teiratea Paku, saying, sure. My guy, Weezy, great to see you and hear the knowledge. Appreciate you hanging out, Teiratea. Always good to see you in here with us, man. All right, let's get down to this next fight. And I will get the stats up on the screen here. It is going to be Landon Quinones. He is a plus 108 underdog, and he's going to be going up against MarQuel Medeiros, the minus 128 favorite, making his debut here. The fight doesn't go to decision. is just a little bit juiced here at minus 135 for this fight. So let's see here. Let's first start talking about Landon Quinones and the advantages that he has in this matchup. He's going to have a 1-inch reach advantage, and he is the southpaw in this southpaw versus orthodox matchup, always an advantage on paper. Landon has one more pro fight, and 10 more minutes of pro cage time, in addition to one more fight at the UFC level and 15 more minutes of octagon time, as Medeiros is going to be making his UFC debut on Saturday. So just a very small pro and UFC experience advantage here on the Landon side. And Landon's a tough kid. He has a combination of attributes that I love to see in a fighter, and that's conditioning and durability. You'd better damn well bring your lunch pail when you're slated to fight this kid, because he recovers quick when he gets hit. He pushes a pace as the fight goes on, and he mixes up his targets well when he strikes. So he's shut guys off with body shots before. And that's always a little bit terrifying when a guy's got really good durability, really good conditioning, and in that second and third round, he can land big shots to the body when you're already tired and looking to quit. That is something that we've seen Quinones actually close fights out with, being able to outlast guys early and then really work the body late. And Landon is a solid southpaw boxer. He's high volume on the feet, and because of his top-notch conditioning and solid chin, he's going to be there for the whole fight. So that pace is going to be a big problem for his lesser conditioned opponents going forward. Quinones made his UFC debut on short notice in Sydney, Australia, against a 12-fight UFC veteran in Nasrat Haqparast, and he had an admirable showing under the extremely difficult circumstances of taking a short notice fight in Australia against a way more experienced opponent. Quinones attempted a mind-blowing 354 significant strike attempts in that fight, and even though he was looking up at the clock 8 minutes into the fight, he never stopped throwing, and he landed several damaging leg kicks and body shots. He had Nasrat's lead leg so compromised that he had to change stances in the second round of that fight. And Landon is fully capable of mixing in the wrestling in order to win minutes. In addition, he stopped all 5 of Haqparast's takedown attempts in his debut, so he can use his grappling in reverse to keep fights standing when he has the advantage on the feet, and mix in the wrestling when his opponents are giving him problems in the stand-up. And with MarQuel Medeiros, he's going to be 1 year younger, and he's going to have a 1-inch height advantage over Landon. And MarQuel is a really solid prospect. He's training out of Factory X Muay Thai in Englewood, Colorado. He's fought in the Fury FC promotion, and he has an 8-1 record as a pro. MarQuel, even though he's only 27 years old, and his pro career, you guys, has only lasted 2 years and 7 months. This guy has demonstrated the ability to know when to use what weapons and fight to the weaknesses of his opponents, which I find very impressive. In the Rios and Guzman fights, we saw him absorb some big shots on the feet and immediately go to his wrestling with success in both of those fights. In the Lugo fight, he mixed his wrestling and his striking beautifully, eventually finishing Lugo by dropping him with a heavy calf kick and then finishing him with ground and pound. And in the Murphy fight, we saw him respect the power of Murphy and again go to the wrestling to win a unanimous decision. And then in his most recent fights against Lampares and Isakov on Dana White's Contender Series, we saw him stuff takedowns and shave ass at distance striking range. You gotta love a young fighter with multiple ways to win minutes, whether it's with his striking or his wrestling, that also has the power to end fights when he lands big. Sky's the limit for this young man at only 27 years of age. Out of a good camp with a diverse skill set and fight IQ beyond his years and experience, I really like what I've seen out of MarQuel on tape so far in terms of having different ways to win fights and knowing when to use what weapon. And MarQuel has really nice striking. He's tall and long for the division, and he mixes his weapons well. He's 6 wins and 0 losses to the knockout in his career, and he's also shown the ability to recover quickly when he's gotten clipped. MarQuel does really good work on the feet, and he's still capable of making improvements at only 27 years old. And he can absolutely wrestle and win minutes with his grappling game. He's got 0 career wins or losses by submission. So when it comes to finishing fights, he relies on the KO, but MarQuel can win minutes with his wrestling, and he's demonstrated the ability to do that in several fights so far in his pro career. Now, in summary, I want to bet on both of these guys. They're both young. Both are well-rounded fighters who can win minutes wherever the fight goes. Neither guy's ever been finished, and both guys have really good conditioning. I do favor Quinones the longer the fight goes on due to that reliable combination of durability, conditioning, and heart. And I like the slight experience and strength of schedule advantage that he has over MarQuel Medeiros. Landon proved he was a gamer in that Haqparast fight and landing 148 significant strikes on short notice in Australia against a really solid defensive fighter in Nasrat Haqparast. That's really impressive. And this is a much more winnable matchup for him. Landon's experience in the Ultimate Fighter House was also a great learning experience for him. He got caught in a triangle choke by Jason Knight, who's a veteran with a nasty guard, but he definitely looked much better his next time out against Nasrat. Both of these guys are prospects with a high ceiling, and I can't wait to watch this fight. I'm ever so slightly leaning Quinones, and I'll pick him to win by decision, but I do think that the over 2.5 rounds, sitting at about minus 120 right now, is a solid look, as both of these guys are extremely durable. They're both well conditioned. They both got a lot of heart. And I think that they both have the ability, if they do get clipped on the feet, to initiate the wrestling and slow down the fight so that, it can make it the full 15 minutes. But the official pick is going to be Landon Quinones to win by decision, but with very little confidence. I think that this is about as close to a coin flip as it gets, and both of these kids are phenomenal prospects. But you know how it is. I got to make a pick, right? So I'm going to go with the lone wolf here, Landon Quinones, to win this fight by decision. Let's see what you guys are saying in the chat here. We've got Ben Ryder saying thanks for everything. And what's a good 2-fighter money line parlay for this week? Says Ben Ryder. Well, I just said that I think Thomas Petersen's going to win by first round KO, and then I think you can get that down to a closer to a plus 100 if you throw in like a Natalia Silva. If you throw in maybe Silva. I mean, I'm not really confident in a lot of these fighters that you have to lay juice on this week, but I think Natalia Silva, you're laying juice on her, but I really do believe that her skill set is elite. So that would be probably the one I would do. Not it might not even be plus money, Ben, but I think it's one that cashes for you. All right, let's move on to the next fight, which is going to be Luana Dread Carolina at plus 112, going up against the Lithuanian Ronda Rousey. We got Julia Stoliarenko back in the house at minus 132. The fight doesn't go to decision here at minus 110. So let me get these stats up on the screen, and let's first start talking about Luana Carolina here after I get a sip of water. So Luana is almost 1 year younger and has a 3-inch reach advantage over Julia. And Luana's got about 20 more minutes of octagon time in comparison to Julia. So a slight UFC experience advantage here. And she's the way better minute winner in comparison to Julia Stoliarenko. Luana's 6 wins and 2 losses to the decision in her pro career compared to 1 win, 3 losses, and 2 draws for Julia Stoliarenko. So obviously someone like Julia, who has 10 pro wins, with 9 of those wins coming by way of first round submission, is a front-loaded fighter whose win equity goes down the second the first round ends. Luana has a well-rounded game with solid striking, a good clinch game, and above average takedown defense and grappling efficiency. So if she can avoid the first round armbar, she will be the fighter more likely to win minutes, I believe, as the fight goes on after the first round. And Luana Carolina has a Muay Thai striking base. She's tall and long for the division. She stays fairly long when she strikes, and she does really good work in the clinch. She's got a positive 0.35 distance striking differential with above average 44% accuracy and below average 54% defense. She has landed and absorbed one UFC knockdown and is yet to finish a UFC opponent. Luana is fully capable of winning minutes at range and in the clinch, and that will probably be her path to victory in this spot, as she should avoid the ground here at all costs, especially early in the fight. Now, Julija Stoliarenko is going to be 1 inch taller than Luana Carolina. She is a former bantamweight who has moved down to flyweight. So she's actually a very big flyweight, even though she's going to be listed as having a 3 inch reach disadvantage here. Julija has 7 more pro fights. She also has time in the Ultimate Fighter House that's not on her record, and almost 3 more years as a pro. So a slight overall experience advantage for Stoliarenko. And Julia's a finisher, a fast one at that. All 10 of her pro finishes are by submission for a 91% career finish rate, and every single finish comes in the first round. The Lithuanian Ronda Rousey has 9 wins by armbar. She's deadly with that technique, and she snaps arms with it. Taking a fight against this woman is a very dangerous proposition, because a loss not only means a loss, but potentially an injury that could keep you out for a while. Outside of the first round armbar finishes, Julija is now finally cutting down to a weight where she will be bigger and stronger than her opposition, and getting the fight to the ground early where she gets her finishes could be easier because of the ability to bully her opponents to the ground. This means she could possibly not only win moments, but also minutes with her ground game and her clinch game, which is also decent. Julia's striking is serviceable, and she throws with some power, so she's not just armbar or bust. She has a 5-round decision victory over Lisa Versosa in Invicta, and she's had some decent performances in decision losses in the UFC. So even though she can get that armbar early, she isn't outmatched anywhere in particular here against Luana Carolina. So this could be a pretty good matchup for her. I guess you could call this a striker versus grappler matchup, but I do think Julia's grappling advantage is way bigger than Luana's striking advantage. These ladies are pretty well matched on paper. They're about the same age. They have about the same amount of pro cage time in UFC fights. Their UFC strength to schedule numbers are similar. Luana probably wins minutes standing and in the clinch, while Julija wins the minutes and moments on the ground and tries to keep it close and competitive on the feet. Now that Julija has moved down to 125 and has looked good early against McCann, I think her size and experience against bigger opponents will come in handy down at 125 and make it easier for her to get fights to the ground early when she's so dangerous and opportunistic. I'll pick Julija Stoliarenko to win this fight by first round submission, and I have a small, or no, not a small, I've got a half unit bet on Julija Stoliarenko to win this fight by first round submission. So I'm going over to Tapology to get this pick in, and it is going to be the Lithuanian Ronda Rousey to win this fight by first round submission. And the bet is a half unit on Stoliarenko to win it that way. I want to get her by her first round, by her best win condition, which is that first round submission, seeing as she's never won any other way in the UFC. And instead of paying minus 130 on the money line, I get to pay plus 480 and put up much less money to win much more. Let's see what you guys are saying in the chat here. We've got Teron Brown saying 300 going to be here in no time. Yeah, man, it's coming up, dude. And we're going to have no weeks off between now and 300. So, yeah, man, before you know it, it's going to be here. We got Pat Timber saying Julija looks lean and mean. Yeah, dude, she really does. I think she's looking much better down here at 125. And the fact that she made the weight with no problem after having so many bad weight cuts at 135 shows that she's probably a lot more locked in. She's probably training a lot harder and taking her diet a lot more seriously, which is going to help her perform at a much higher level. And I think when Julija is performing at a high level, we see first round submissions. So that was the bet for me. And we've got Teron Brown saying, is this card at the Apex? Yes, sir. Apex and small cage. And the small cage usually favors those aggressive grapplers. 14 weeks of UFC, says Caddy Daddy, says so he can't wait. I hope it's not 14. I hope it's only 12, because 14 straight weeks is a lot for us content creators. But either way, man, we got a lot of UFC coming up, and it starts this week, you guys. So let's get off on the right foot. All right. The next fight that we are going to talk about is going to be Jeong-Yeong Lee, and he is a minus 145 favorite going up against Blake El Animal Bilder at plus 125. The under 2.5 rounds here is at minus 115, because this is the only fight that Bet Online has not gotten props out for. And because they didn't get props out for it, Bet Rivers, which has props out on every single fight as well, didn't get out their props either. So we're waiting on Bet Online to open up all the props for this Lee Bilder fight. But right now we've got an under 2.5 that's priced at minus 115 here. So let's first start talking about the advantages that Jeong-Yeong Lee has in this spot. He has significant measurables advantages over Blake. He's going to be 5 years younger than Blake Bilder. He's going to be 2 inches taller and have a 5-inch reach advantage. All of that very significant. Lee is a well-rounded fighter. He has power on the feet, and he's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt with 3 wins by submission. He's dangerous wherever the fight goes, and he's finished 7 of his 10 pro wins inside the distance, and he's got 3 submissions and 4 knockouts, so he's dangerous, whether he's grappling or whether he's striking. And on the feet, Lee is a very dangerous fighter. He's got heavy hands, and when he throws, it's with power and purpose. He features a straight right, a check left hook, and a lead uppercut that are all very powerful. In Lee's rematch win versus the only guy to beat him, Tae-Yong Kim, Lee dropped him twice with check left hooks and finished with ground and pound. And Lee knocked out Hae-Jin Park and Liu Kai with that brutal straight right hand that he likes to show quite a bit. Both of those knockouts came inside of 1 minute of the first round. And Lee, like I said, is a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt with a 3-win and 0-loss career record to the submission. All 3 of those submission wins coming by way of armbar. That is his favorite submission when he gets to the ground. This guy's tricky on the ground, and he can find moments if you stay in his guard and don't have solid armbar defense. Now, Blake Bilder, he's going to have the experience advantage with 35 more minutes of pro cage time in 4 less years as a pro fighter. So Blake has been the more active fighter as a pro. Blake also has 1 more fight at the UFC level and 15 more minutes of octagon time. Blake's an extremely durable and well-conditioned athlete. This guy has a ton of heart, and he can come back and win fights where he's losing minutes and moments to his opponents, like he did in the Buenafuente and Carvalho fights in CFFC. Blake turns up the pressure and output as the fight goes on and takes advantage of the fact that his conditioning is top-notch. Lee's best chance to win this fight is early, but if it goes past 7 or 8 minutes, I see Blake winning the second half of this fight with his pressure and his pace, and his durability can help him survive the early storm so that he can have the opportunity to use those weapons in the second half of the fight. Blake is a solid striker. He moves well laterally, making him a hard target to find with big shots due to the constant movement. Blake is hittable, but he's also durable. That allows him to get to pressure his opponents as the fight goes on and start to get them on the back foot and unload with power shots. He's not the most technical guy, but he moves constantly. He has the necessary conditioning to continue to move that way for the full 15. And when he's the one moving forward and throwing with power, he's a very difficult opponent to deal with. And Blake has a very cheeky submission game, and he stays fairly active trying for takedowns and clinching up with his opponents. Blake is 4 wins and 0 losses to the submission in his pro career. He's locked up a triangle choke versus Frank Buenafuente to win the CFFC featherweight belt after losing all 9.5 minutes of the fight before he got that submission. His BJJ got him a fantastic comeback win there. He also showed incredible opportunistic submission skills, hurting Alex Morgan with a straight right behind the ear and immediately jumping on his back and finishing with the rear naked choke. And then he also had a reverse triangle armbar finish from top position in the Kane Luger fight. That was an absolutely gorgeous finish that he got via submission. Blake has got a really good top control game, but he can absolutely finish if he gets into dominant positions. Blake has fought the better guys, in my opinion, having been CFFC champion, having one more fight at the UFC level. I think his strength of schedule is just a little bit better than Jeong-Yeong and Lee's, who's coming off of the Asian regional scene. Now, this is a very interesting fight. We have Lee coming off a really underwhelming win versus Yi Jia, where his conditioning didn't look good at all, and neither did his ability to get off the cage when Yi put him there. But before that, he absolutely ran 3 consecutive guys through a dick saw. He finished Liu Kai, Bin Ji, and Hae-Jin Park in 42 seconds, 36 seconds, and 10 seconds, respectively. Lee has 4 wins that come in the first minute of round 1. He's explosive and powerful, and he has an opportunistic submission game in his own right, even if it is mostly just going for arm bars. On the other side, you have Bilder, who has excellent conditioning, durability, and heart. He pushes a pace and frustrates his opponents defensively at range by constantly moving laterally. He mixes in the clinch game and wrestling, where we saw Yi Jia have a lot of success against Lee, and his BJJ is really dangerous and opportunistic. If Blake gets on top of Lee, I see him having a lot of success if he can get to half guard and stay safe from the armbar attempts of Jeong-Yeong. I've seen Bilder get clipped so many times early in fights, and Lee has a knack for doing exactly that. I think Jeong-Yeong Lee to win in round 1 or by first round KO could be a cheeky play, but I think Bilder's durability, heart, and good defensive footwork at distance striking range help him survive the early power of Lee, and I think he takes over as this fight goes on. And I'm picking Blake Bilder to win this fight by finding a 3rd round submission finish. This is going to be a great fight. It's probably Lee early or Bilder late. And if the price is right, I'll be looking to bet both. The official pick is Blake El Animal Bilder to win by 3rd round sub. Keep in mind that Blake's last 2 fights were in Perth, Australia, and Vancouver, British Columbia. So he was on the road in front of hostile crowds. This time he's in Vegas, and it's his opponent that's making the long trip from South Korea. So let's go here to Tapology, and we're going to pick Blake El Animal Bilder to win this fight by submission in round number 3. Let's see what you guys are saying in the chat. We've got, I don't know, Tehran. I don't know. It's you know what it is? It's just being lazy. They're just lazy. They don't want to have to pay an extra crew to be constantly traveling around the country and, doing all the logistical shit that goes along with that. If they get to have half their events here in Vegas, they don't have to travel as much. It makes it a lot less easier. They can employ a lot less people, and they'll probably be a lot more profitable for the stockholders. Meanwhile, the fans will pay too much for a product that should be traveling more and should be selling out arenas all over the country and all over the world. That should be happening every single week. Why should Chicago have to wait, once every 2 years to get a UFC card here? They could sell out 4 UFC cards here every year if they bothered to travel here, but they just don't. They're comfortable sitting in the Apex, getting their ESPN money, and screwing us over by not traveling. We got Boob in the room saying, remember when Luana did that screech when Lipsky subbed her? I always laugh out loud when thinking about it. That was a nasty arm bar, or knee bar in such a weird position. Getting your leg bent the wrong way has got to be a horrific thing. Joe Banavicius is in the room saying, love the content. Rodriguez by TKO and Khizriev TKO. And Khizriev 2. And Weezy loved the show. What do I think about Rodriguez by TKO and Khizriev by sub? Those are both official predictions of mine, which you will hear shortly. I'm predicting both of those things to happen, Joe. So that is, I love it. That gets the Uncle Weezy, bam, stamp of approval, my friend. We got Fight Talk only in the room saying, there he is. There he fucking is. Oi! Yes, what's up, T.O. Weezy? Good to see you hanging out in here, brother. Always a pleasure when you join us live. We got Dylan Denulji in the room saying Blake is definitely winning. Yeah, I think he's a good look this week, you guys. Jeong-Yeong Lee, this is, in my opinion, a step up in competition for him. And now that he's kind of like off that Korean regional scene, that Asian regional scene, he's going to see some guys like Bilder that are really good. Really good. So I'm looking forward to this fight because Lee is a super exciting prospect with a ton of power and a cheeky submission game in his own right. So it's going to be a really fun fight. Daz Files got 3 units on Lee. Let's go. Yeah, I'll be looking to add on maybe some Lee by first round knockout, Daz Files, because he is absolutely so dangerous early, but Blake is so durable. I think that we could see him have some success late in this fight. We've got J-Book saying, surprised they haven't dropped that Builder sub prop yet. They're hiding it from us. Yeah, man. You know, it's always weird. There's always like 1 or 2 fights that the books seem reluctant to put out props on right away. And I thought one of them would be Gorimbo Rodriguez, but they got that one out. But yeah, this is the one this week. No props out for this. No fight doesn't go to decision. No nothing. So I'm not sure what BetOnline is waiting for here, but this is a very good fight. We got J-Book saying Uncle Weezy kills it every time. I appreciate you, brother. And yes, Freak, all the way from Scottsdale, Arizona. They're watching me. Weezy. Ayo, he says, good to see you hanging out in here, brother. Smash that like, everybody. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and leave me a comment down below. I would truly appreciate it, but I'd appreciate even more if you join the Patreon, which would give you access to these beautiful stats that you see here on the screen. That gives you access to this prop template with all the over-under analytics. Hey, you ever wonder how many middleweight fights that were scheduled for 5 rounds went under 1.5 rounds? Wonder no more, ladies and gentlemen. You can find it right here on my prop template where you can know that 32.35% of the time, or 22 of 68 5-round middleweight fights have went under 1.5 rounds, and you can compare that analytic to the implied probability of the line and to the combined records of both opponents to determine whether the line is overpriced or underpriced according to the available metrics that we have. So join the Patreon. That is the best way to support my work, and I appreciate everybody that's here watching live on the Patreon, wherever, all around the world. Your Uncle Weezy loves you. All right, you guys, let's keep moving here. The next fight that we're going to talk about, speaking of Themba Gorimbo versus Pete Rodriguez, we've got Themba, the answer, Gorimbo, Zimbabwe, stand up. He is a minus 250 favorite to Pete Dead Game Rodriguez, the fighting pride of Arizona, who's a plus 210 underdog here. Fight doesn't go to decision. Juiced to the tits at minus 400 here, everybody. The bookies are expecting violence in this fight. Let's first start talking about the advantages that Themba Gorimbo has in this matchup. He's the much bigger dude. He's 5.5 years younger than Pete Rodriguez. He's also 3 inches taller, and he's going to have a 5.5-inch reach advantage. And Themba has the overall and UFC experience advantages. He has 9 more pro fights, 115 more minutes of cage time, and 7.5 more years as a pro fighter. Themba also has 16 more minutes of octagon time in comparison to Pete. And Themba does his best work in the grappling exchanges. 6 of Themba's 7 career finish wins come by way of submission, and he's just as capable of using his wrestling, top control, and ground and pound to win minutes as he is at winning moments from his back with arm bars, triangles, and guillotine chokes. His path to victory here is to get this fight to the ground, wear out Rodriguez, who has never seen a second round as a professional mixed martial artist, and either finish him in the second or third, or just keep wrestling to win the minutes and not allow Pete Rodriguez to do what he do best, which is box at range. He will definitely possess the tools to fight that fight. It's going to be up to Pete to stuff the takedowns and land big shots when Themba enters. And Themba has fought the tougher guys over his career, more experienced against more experienced fighters. Now, Pete Rodriguez is going to be 5.5 years younger than Themba. I think I listed, Themba is 5.5 years younger. That's absolutely wrong. It's Pete Rodriguez who's 5.5 years younger than Themba. And he's a switch stance fighter versus an orthodox. That is an advantage on paper. Pete Rodriguez is a finisher. He's finished all 5 of his wins inside the distance by way of knockout in the very first round. Pete comes out fighting like he's double parked, knowing he doesn't get paid overtime, and his hands are nasty. Pete's boxing is where he does his best work. He's always pressuring. He's very comfortable in the pocket, and he has serious power in both hands. He has hooks, uppercuts, kicks, step-in knees. And because he loves to rip hooks to the body, I see it difficult for Themba, who needs to wrestle, to have his way in this fight when he's moving backwards, having to worry about body shots, uppercuts, and knees, which are exactly the kind of strikes that discourage takedown attempts. Excuse me. So Pete Rodriguez is stepping in on short notice here to replace Themba Gorimbo's original opponent, which was Kiefer Crosby. We haven't seen Pete in 1 year and 3 months due to him botching 2 consecutive weight cuts down to 155 pounds when he was slated to fight Natan Levy back in April and May of 2023. Pete's still only 27 years old, and on that long of a layoff, it's possible he's made improvements to his game. Gorimbo's a big favorite here, around minus 240, and I don't agree with the line. There's definitely a path to victory here for Themba if he has early wrestling success, because we don't know what Pete looks like out of the first round. And Themba has already demonstrated the ability to wrestle hard for 3 full rounds. Themba's taller, he's longer, he's more experienced, he's the better grappler, and he's fought the better brand of competition. So he's the rightful favorite considering the layoff for Pete Rodriguez, the botched weight cuts, his 9.15 minute professional career. But I still love Pete's chance to do what he does best, though. Pressure, close the distance, get into the pocket, and put together heavy combinations that knock out his opponent. And I think that's exactly what happens here. I'm picking Pete Rodriguez to win this fight by first round knockout. So let me get this up right here. Pete Dead Game Rodriguez, KO, round 1. Gorimbo is not really like a minute winning striker, you guys. He's won some decisions in his career, but the decisions that he wins is because he's taking guys down, not because he's staying at distance and out striking people. So if he's unable to get this fight to the ground and keep it there early, I don't see a scenario where Pete doesn't just walk this guy down like he's Jason Voorhees with a machete and find that big shot that shuts him off to the body, that big hook that spins his chin around 360 degrees. Pete's a nasty striker, and he didn't even look like he was scared of Jack Della. He was right in that pocket, trading shots with Jack, and he landed several good ones in that fight. You know, if he gets into exchanges like that with Themba, I think he probably knocks him out. So I have a small bet, a quarter of a unit on Pete Rodriguez to win by first round knockout at plus 600 on DraftKings Sportsbook. I think it's his best win condition. We have no idea what Pete would look like past the 3 or 4 minute mark of the first round. So I think instead of getting him at plus 200, if you can get him at plus 600 for his best win condition, I think it's a much safer way to play him and just be able to reduce your original investment. Just in case Themba does get the takedowns early here and is able to tire him out and wear him out and finish him late in the fight or just win a decision. So, but the pick is going to be Pete Rodriguez by first round knockout. We got Daz Files saying, yeah, minus 250 for Gorimbo is nuts. And I couldn't agree more, man. I mean, the guy's just not that great, but there is a path there. And Themba Gorimbo is one of these fighters that has a great story, so I think people are rooting for him. I think there could be a lot of casual money out there on him, but it's not the casual money that moves the markets. It's the sharp money that moves it. So I am a little bit surprised by this line, but at the same time, it's pretty easy to see what Themba's win condition is here. And since we don't know what Pete's grappling really looks like at this level yet, and we don't know what he looks like outside of the first round, you got to assume that if Themba gets through that first round, he's going to win this fight. We got Teoretea saying, I like that first round prop. Is there any value on the money line? Yeah, I think there is, dude. I mean, plus 200 for a guy that I think has way more power on the feet. Look, the fights either take place on the feet, on the cage, or on the mat. And if this fight takes place on the feet, I don't think Pete Rodriguez is going to look anywhere close to plus 200, plus 210. Yeah. Oh, yeah, the guy, The Rock, bought a house. That's right. Yeah, the Rock bought him a house. This guy comes from nothing. This guy was almost torn apart and killed by dogs while he was digging for diamonds in the diamond fields in Zimbabwe. So, yeah, man, this guy comes from nothing, and he's a very inspirational story, very hard worker, a dreamer that's out there trying to, write his own script in life. So I got a ton of respect for Themba the Answer Gorimbo. I'm picking Pete Rodriguez to win by first round knockout. Got a small bet on him that if I lose, I lose. Oh, well, but we'll see what happens here. All right, let's move on to the next fight. We've got Azat Maksum, who's the money is continuing to come in on him. He is a minus 210 favorite. He's going up against the pride of St. Louis, Charles Johnson, the plus 180 underdog. Fight doesn't go to decision here at plus money, plus 190 for this fight. So let's get the stats up on the screen here. And let's first start talking about the advantages that one Azat Maksum has in this spot. Maksum is 4 years younger than Charles Johnson is. He's a solid, well-rounded mixed martial artist. Azat is 17-0 as a professional. 7 wins coming by way of submission, 5 wins by way of knockout, 5 wins by way of decision. On the feet, he's low volume, but he's explosive and powerful. He has a solid jab, and when he finds the range on that jab, then he starts landing the powerful right hand. Azat also mixes in his wrestling and has the ability to win minutes and moments on the ground. He's got multiple paths to victory. He's defensively sound, and he's capable in all aspects of the sport. Azat is a powerful and explosive striker. He mostly fights orthodox, but in the Nam fight, he was constantly switching stances. Azat is definitely a low-volume striker. He stays on his toes. He moves well laterally, staying just out of range, feinting, and looking to find the range on that jab of his. Once he finds that, he starts throwing 1-2s down the pipe, and he also mixes in the overhand right, which is a powerful weapon for him. I don't think Azat's going to win a lot of minutes with his striking in the UFC, but the moment-winning potential is there, and that was how he won the Nam fight. He got outstruck 79-46 at distance, but he landed the heavier, more impactful headshots, and that was enough to win him the split decision. Azat landed some beautiful knockouts on the regional scene. He had 2 knockdowns in the Al Jarouj fight, finishing in the 3rd round with a beautiful straight right. Versus Flavio Carrios, he landed a perfect overhand right and got the knockout in the 1st. The threat of his offensive wrestling also makes it easier for him to land that big shot on the feet. So Azat isn't a pretty striker, but his striking sets up his wrestling and also gives him the opportunity to land big shots on the feet because of the threat of the wrestling. So the striking sets up the wrestling, and then the threat of the wrestling sets up the threat of the big shots on the feet. So Azat does a good job of mixing the martial arts and fighting with the style that works for him. And he does a solid job also of using the striking to set up the entries on his takedowns. Azat can wrestle, and we see him using wrestling to win minutes and moments on the regional scene. In the Bolat Bekov, Karabekov, and Nunez fights, we saw Azat use his wrestling to get fights to the ground, use ground and pound to open up opportunities to pass the guard and get to dominant positions, and finish with submissions. When Azat gets his offensive wrestling going, he's definitely the best version of himself in the cage. Now, Charles Johnson is 1 inch taller, and he's a switch stance fighter, so that's also an advantage on paper here. And Charles has the overall and UFC experience advantages with 2 more pro fights, almost 90 more minutes of pro cage time, and 6 more months as a pro. Charles also has 5 more fights at the UFC level and 65 more minutes of octagon time. And Charles has excellent conditioning and durability. He's a former steeplechase Olympic hopeful, so he has excellent conditioning, and he's never been finished in 19 pro fights and 6 pro losses. Be prepared to go the distance with Charles if you want to beat him. And Charles has solid striking. He constantly switches stances. He's technical, fast, and he throws in combination. He keeps a high pace, and he's accurate when he throws. Charles has a positive 1.02 distance striking differential in the UFC, despite a 2-4 UFC record. His fights only stay standing about 50% of the time, and that number needs to go way up if he's going to have success and win minutes at this level. Excuse me. Charles isn't flashing power, but he does have good conditioning and output, and when he gets into a groove, he looks confident and technical. And Charles has fought the higher level competition over his pro career. He has 5 more fights at the UFC level, and he was the LFA flyweight champion. So he's been more tested as a pro in comparison to Azat. Now, Charles is taking this fight on short notice again. Azat was slated to fight Nate Maness, and Johnson is stepping in on around 2 weeks' notice for this opportunity. Charles has had a tough UFC run thus far. He's faced pretty much nothing but crotch sniffers, and he's seen the mind-boggling 83 takedown attempts against him in only 6 UFC fights. You can see that right here. 83 takedown attempts against Charles Johnson, and he's given up 31. So, this guy has had a really rough go because his opponents are just committing to the wrestling against him. That means opponents are averaging 15.65 takedown attempts for 15 minutes against him thus far in the UFC. Charles tends to be a slow starter and then improves as the fight goes on, but that style isn't working for him because he lacks finishing ability at this level. And since he gets out-controlled 44% to 6.5%, he can't afford to wait to win minutes because he loses far too many in the grappling exchanges. On the feet, this fight should be close. I favor Charles' volume and technical prowess at range, but Azat has the power advantage here. Azat's wrestling advantage is definitely there, but Charles does have solid takedown defense. It's just the sheer volume of wrestling that's given him problems, and Azat doesn't chain together attempts like some of Charles' previous opponents have. This fight should be close on the feet, but with all Charles Johnson fights, you have to wonder what happens if Azat commits to the wrestling here. If he takes that route, I see Azat winning the minutes of this fight and getting a decision victory. Charles can win the minutes at distance, but it's troubling knowing that he lacks power and the ability to keep fights at distance long enough to win enough minutes and get that decision nod. And his lack of power and inability to keep fights at range makes it so hard to pick him to win, especially against somebody that has demonstrated the ability to wrestle in the past like Maksum has. So I have to go with Azat Maksum, and I'm picking him to win this fight by decision. All right, so the pride of Kazakhstan there. We're picking him to win this fight by decision. All right, let's move on to the next fight, which is going to be Meatball Molly McCann making her strawweight debut. She is a minus 280 favorite going up against Diana Belbita. Romania, stand up. Canada, stand up. We're looking to see if Diana can avenge that loss that she has already had to Molly McCann in her UFC debut. And we got the rematch that nobody asked for, but that we are seeing here. And let's first start talking about the advantages that Molly McCann has in this spot. So Molly is going to have the UFC experience advantage with 5 more fights and 40 more minutes of octagon time compared to Diana. And Molly's been the better finisher at the UFC level, finishing 2 of her 6 wins by knockout. And that's because there's a power differential here. While Diana is more of a volume striker, Molly gets into the pocket, swings with power and purpose, and she's landed 2 UFC knockdowns, and she has 2 wins by way of knockout, while Diana has 1 knockdown, but no knockouts in the UFC. Molly's a great pocket boxer, and her pressure-heavy style really plays to her strengths as a fighter. Molly's durable, mean, and loves to mix it up in the pocket, and because she only has a 62-inch reach, she needs to be the bully, because with that length, she's not going to win a range kickboxing battle. Molly has a positive 1.54 distance striking differential with 47.5% accuracy and 68.5% defense. She's high volume, accurate, and defensively responsible, and the pressure looks good optically to the judges. Molly does her best work at distance, as evidenced by the fact that in Molly's 5 losses, she's allowed 16 takedowns on 22 attempts, and she's been controlled 64% of the cage time in those losses, while she's only allowed 1 takedown on 8 attempts in her wins, allowing only 8% control time to her opponents. So as long as Molly can choose whether the fight stays standing or goes to the ground, she's going to have her best chance to win. And I see that being the case here, as Belbita is primarily a striker. And Molly has fought and beaten the more experienced and better brand of UFC competition. Now, Diana is going to be 6 years younger than Molly. She's 3 inches taller, and she's going to have a 6-inch reach advantage, despite the fact that McCann is a former flyweight who's cutting down to 115 for the first time in her pro career. Even though Diana is 6 years younger, she's actually the more experienced fighter overall, with 4 more pro fights and 15 more minutes of pro cage time. And Diana, like Molly, does her best work in the distance striking exchanges. Coming from a kickboxing background, Diana is tall and long for the division. She throws straight punches down the pipe. She keeps her chin tucked, and she throws a high volume of kicks to help her maintain range. Diana has a positive 0.65 distance striking differential, 39% accuracy, and 56% defense, which are okay. She's got 1 UFC knockdown, and she's never knocked anyone out in the UFC. Diana throws a ton of volume, though. 21.65 distance strike attempts per minute, which is 7.34 more than the divisional average, and she lands 8.5 distance strikes per minute. That's 2.91 more than the divisional average. Diana stays busy, and she'll sit down on her punches from time to time and land with some power, but mostly she's just a high-volume striker who uses her length well. So this is a rematch of a fight that took place back in October of 2019. It was Diana's UFC debut and Molly's 4th UFC fight. Molly won all 3 rounds. She got a 10-8 in the second round, and Diana also had a point deducted for a blatant fence grab, so it wound up being a dominant 30-25 win on all 3 scorecards the first time around for Molly McCann. But Diana was 23 when that fight happened, and Molly was 29. So obviously things were a little different this time around, as this fight is taking place at 115 pounds. This will be Diana's 5th straight appearance at strawweight, while Molly is making this cut down to 115 pounds for the first time in her career, and she's 33 years old now. That's that shit I don't like. The extra weight cuts later on in careers are always a bit of a red flag, but Molly always carried a bit of extra weight, so she also could look much improved at 115. I want to see Molly on the scale before I decide once and for all who I'm picking to win this fight. If Molly looks good on the scale, then I'll pick her to win by decision. But if she looks like she had a terrible cut and looks like death warmed over on the scale, I could see making a play on Belbita around plus 240. That could be a solid shot to take. Plus money females are always plus EV, so that could be worth a shot. I think Molly is probably the better minute and moment winner at distance. She definitely landed the bigger shots the first time they fought. She comes forward. That brawler style, throwing 100% power into all of her punches, lends itself to finding those bigger shots that catch the judge's eye and help her get the nod in close rounds. Molly's defensive footwork is solid, and her 68.5% distance striking defense over a big sample size is a testament to her efficiency at distance and her 2 UFC wins by way of brutal knockout are evidence of the power differential that she has at distance striking range. I think the grappling kind of cancels each other out here, and Molly McCann wins a decision, but I'll be keeping a close eye on the weigh-ins, and if Molly looks terrible, I'll probably be willing to pull the trigger on the younger, longer, taller, more technical striker who throws more volume at distance in Belbita, who's much more used to fighting at strawweight. But for now, we're going to assume, and you know what happens when you assume, that Molly McCann has a good weight cut, and I'll pick her to win this fight by decision. Let's see what you guys are saying in the chat here. We got AJ's MMA saying, "Aye, Paku, let's go." Doing some study, I see. Yes, sir. My guy Tayrate is always in here. We got Immaculaton 3 saying, "I'm going heavy on Meatball. Lesbian physicality versus skinny basic striker." Yeah, she is more physical. She's a bully. She's meaner. She comes forward. She throws with more power. So that's why I'm picking her as well. But the scale going to be very interesting in this fight. And we got Cody Cigar saying Belbita is hot, but I don't believe she wins. We're going to find out, man. You know, like different circumstances this time around. This time it's Deanna, who's 28, 29 in the prime of her life. While this time it's Molly, who's like 33 and maybe getting a little bit older. Making that cut to strawweight for the first time at that age is a little bit concerning. And Tayrate is saying to AJ's saying always, yeah. And Cuban Assassin saying Molly McCann OnlyFans incoming if she loses. Ja, help us if that happens. And AJ is saying, I think Belbita is just a little too basic. Molly has the physicality advantage. Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, like, she's definitely the bully in this fight, without question. All right. Let's go on to the next fight, which is going to be the RGV bad boy, Gilbert Urbina. He's a big favorite here at -202, going up against Charles Chuck Buffalo Radtke at +172. The fight doesn't go to decision, juiced up at -180 for this fight. Really fun fight here. Looking forward to breaking this one down with you guys. Let's first start talking about the advantages that Gilbert Urbina has in this fight. First of all, Gilbert is 6 years younger almost. He's 5 inches taller, and he's going to have a 3-inch reach advantage over Charles Radtke. And Gilbert has a lot of things going for him. He's only 27 years old. He's from a fighting family. He's got a 7-2 pro record with 2 wins by sub, 2 wins by knockout, and 3 wins by decision. He's tall, long, a good striker. He's got a solid ground game. He's solid everywhere, spectacular nowhere, but at the age where he could be making big improvements. On the feet, Gilbert stays long. He has great kicks, and he uses his length and athleticism well. Gilbert does great work on the mat when he's the one getting the takedowns. He's long, and he has a knack for getting to his opponent's back and using those long legs to lock in the body triangle and win minutes there while looking for the submission. It's hard to predict how Gilbert's going to win a fight because he has multiple avenues to win minutes and moments. But at only 27 years of age, there's room for improvement, and his skill set is already well-rounded and really well-tested for a young fighter. And Gilbert has fought the better brand of UFC competition thus far, and even his regional scene strength of schedule is a notch better than Radtke's, having fought Sean Brady. Now, Radtke has a small overall experience advantage with 2 more fights and 25 more minutes of pro cage time in 1.5 more years as a pro fighter. Chuck is good on the feet. This kid's left hook is legit. If it lands, you're going to be in serious trouble. He showed the power in that left hand in the Brandon Lopez and Caleb Crump fights in CFFC, leaving both of those fools sleeping on after he touched them with it. Chuck pressures when he's on the feet, gets his opponents backing up, and when they don't give ground and get in the pocket with him, he likes to trade with his opponents and see who hits harder and has the better chin. Chuck talks a lot of shit, but he hits really hard, and he's trained at MMA Masters, and he currently trains at Valley Flow Striking. So he's had excellent coaching, and he has the combination of pressure, power, and durability that can serve him well at this level. Radtke showed good distance striking metrics versus Blood Diamond in Australia in his UFC debut, so it does appear that he could do good work at distance at this level. And Charles is a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt who has 2 wins and 0 losses to the submission in his career. He showed off his ground game in the Raheem Forrest fight when he won the CFFC welterweight championship by getting the top position in a scramble, using his BJJ and ground and pound to advance position, get to Forrest's back, and win with the rear naked choke. Whether it's on the feet with his pressure and power, in the clinch winning minutes like he did against Blood Diamond, racking up over 9 minutes of clinch control time, or on the mat with his Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, finding submissions or just scrapping to win more minutes than his opponent does. Radtke has 2 pro wins by sub, 3 by knockout, and 3 by decision. So he's got many ways to get the job done. This is a fun matchup. On the Urbina side, you got to love that he's almost 6 years younger, 5 inches taller, and has a 3-inch reach advantage. He uses that length well and has great kicks and does a great job when he's the one on top in the grappling exchanges. He's been in the tough house. He's from a fighting family and has had multiple paths to victory. Now, Chuck Buffalo has serious power in that left hand. His pressure will help him close the distance, and I think he's the more powerful fighter on the feet, and he also can be dangerous when he's the one on top in the grappling exchanges. Right now, Urbina is around a minus 210 favorite, and while I love the youth, the size, the improvements, and the well-rounded skill set, I feel like Radtke is more dangerous on the feet. He's demonstrated the ability to win minutes in the clinch, and he's got a BJJ black belt and a dangerous ground game in his own right. The X factor for me is how hittable Urbina is on the feet. If Radtke finds the mark with that left hook, I don't think Urbina is going to be able to get past that and recover. And I love the fact that Radtke is naturally a pressure fighter that will be able to close the distance against Urbina, which will allow him to get into the pocket and land those bombs. I'm picking Chuck Buffalo to win this fight by second round knockout and then flip off the camera with both hands, tell the crowd to go fuck themselves while your Uncle Weezy cashes a plus money line ticket on the Chicago product from Valley Flow Striking. Valley Flow Striking stand up, Chicago stand up, Chuck Buffalo stand up. I'm picking that young man to win by second round knockout. Let's see what you guys are saying in the chat here. We've got Fender Jazz in the room saying, hope Meatball gets crushed, but they set her up. Yeah, it looks like they're trying to get her a win. It was a dominant victory for Molly the first time around. So they're probably trying to get her a win here, but it's not in England, where she's going to get that boost from the crowd. So we're going to see how this one plays out. We got AJ's saying, just subscribed, Uncle Weezy. I'm glad to be here. I appreciate you hanging out, my man. Thank you for subscribing to the channel. Weezy the GOAT says, Teretea. We got AJ's saying, there's a lot of people saying Urbina is a lock. I completely disagree. Yeah, we don't know much about Urbina yet. We know maybe just a tiny bit more about Radtke, but I still think we're missing information on both of these guys. So when I've got a fight that I really do think is very close to 50-50 here, I've got to take that Radtke money line, and I got it at plus 180. We got Daz Files saying 3 units on Chuck Buffalo. Let's go. That's a big bet, but he is a big underdog, so you're going to cash huge if that hits, Daz Files. We got Dylan in the room saying Radtke's so bad. I don't think he's that bad, man. I think he's a good fighter. He's just gotten a little bit of a late start. He's well-rounded. He's powerful. He's got a good ground game, good clinch game. We're going to see what kind of offense the RGV bad boy, Gilbert Urbina, has for Radtke, and if he's cleaned up that striking defense. Because the striking defense for Urbina is a problem against somebody that hits as hard as Radtke does. And AJ saying, hey, Weezy, who'd you pick for the Themba Pete, sir? I've got Pete Rodriguez winning by first round knockout, Jays, but I do think that Themba's definitely live to out wrestle this dude and get a second or third round finish, or even win by decision by just blanketing him for the full 3 rounds. But Pete's got the kind of strikes that can discourage takedown attempts with those step-in knees, those uppercuts, and those body shots that he likes to rip. So I'm picking Pete here. Let's move on, though, to the next fight. I got the worst itch on my nose ever. I apologize for that. But let's go on to the next fight here. Get the stats up for, and I think we're on the main card now. Whoa! Aliaskhab Khizriev, dude. It must be a leap year because he's actually slated to fight, and he is going to be going up against Makhmud Muradov. We got Khizriev around a -150 favorite, Muradov about +130, and the fight doesn't go to decision, sitting at -160 for this fight. So let's first start talking about Ali here. He is 6 months younger than Makhmud, and he's the southpaw in this southpaw versus orthodox matchup. Ali is an incredibly talented prospect. He's 12 wins and 0 losses as a pro with a 75% finish rate. He's got 4 wins by submission, 5 by knockout, and 3 by decision. He's really good wherever the fight goes. His striking is powerful and aggressive. His wrestling is top-notch, and when he gets fights to the ground, he lands a ton of ground and pound and uses that to open up opportunities to advance position and hunt for the rear naked choke, which is how he's finished all 4 of his submission wins. Ali has really good striking. He moves forward, he throws in combination, and he's got a knack for timing beautiful step-in knees that can land to the body or the head. He does an excellent job of using his pressure and his striking to set up his wrestling entries, so that makes him even more dangerous on the feet because sometimes his opponents are more worried about his wrestling, so they leave openings for him to land big shots on the feet. But Ali really does do his best work on the mat. He has top-notch wrestling, being from Makhachkala, Dagestan. This guy has a pedigree for elite Russian wrestling, and it shows on his tape. He favors the single leg, but can get body lock takedowns and blast doubles as well. Once on the mat, he does an excellent job of keeping his opponents down while landing heavy ground and pound. He uses that ground and pound to open up opportunities to advance position, get to his opponent's backs, sink in that rear naked choke. If this guy gets on top of you, look out. Now, Makhmud, being a natural middleweight, will be the much bigger dude here. He's 5 inches taller, and he's got a 1-inch reach advantage over Ali. Makhmud has big overall and UFC experience advantages. He has 22 more pro fights, 230 more minutes of pro cage time, and 2 more years as a pro. Makhmud also has the UFC experience advantage with 5 more fights and 70 more minutes of octagon time. He's also been the far busier fighter as of late because for some reason, Ali doesn't show up to fight ever. Ali has fought exactly twice since April of 2018. Twice. Since April of 2018, Makhmud has fought 13 times. There is a massive possibility that the fight game has passed Khizriev by because he's literally pissed away the last 6 years of his career from ages 27 to 33 by only showing up to fight twice. And one of those fights lasted 50 seconds. So I have no idea what Ali is waiting for. The complete lack of activity for Ali is a massive concern here, as he's also at a massive experience disadvantage to Makhmud as well. Now, Makhmud's striking is really good. He's tall and long for the division. He uses that length really well. His footwork is excellent, and he's always moving laterally, making himself a very hard target to find, showing 63% distance striking defense. Makhmud throws mostly one at a time, but he's unorthodox and very accurate. He has sniper-like counters that he uses to deal with his opponent's pressure. Makhmud has a positive 1.93 distance striking differential with 43% accuracy and a 1% distance knockdown percentage. He stays busy, moves back and forth laterally. He mixes his punches and his kicks well, and he lands with power in all of his weapons. Makhmud is a very impressive 17 wins and 1 loss to the KO in his pro career, and his solid takedown defensive and defensive lateral movement allows him to keep fights standing 76% of his octagon time where he's most comfortable and where he does his best work. And Makhmud has an underrated grappling game. And what's really important is he's demonstrated the ability to know when to use his grappling in an offensive fashion, like he did in the Barberena fight, or use it to keep fights standing, like he did against Alessio Di Chirico, Trevor Smith, and Andrew Sanchez. Makhmud has 16 UFC takedowns and is only allowed 4. He has 67% takedown accuracy, which is way, way, way above average, and 78% takedown defense. So they're both well above average for the division. And he outcontrols his opponents 14% to 10%, winning 59% of the control time positions his fights have been in. Makhmud is a capable grappler, and he knows when to use it offensively and when to use it in reverse. And I think he better use it in reverse against Khizriev and keep this fight standing, because Ali is an animal from top control, and Makhmud does not want to be underneath that dude. And Makhmud has fought the better brand of competition over their respective careers. 22 more pro fights, 5 more fights at the UFC level from Muradov. So this is definitely a step up for Ali compared to Henrique Shigemoto and Dennis Tialulin. So this is a very high-level fight. Both guys are well-rounded and dangerous, but I'd say with confidence that Khizriev is more dangerous than Makhmud on the mat, and Makhmud is more dangerous than Ali at distance striking range. The complete lack of activity is a massive concern for Khizriev. 2 fights since April of 2018 is very concerning, because you don't take that much time off unless you've been constantly injured or unless you're just extremely lazy. Also, why is he fighting at 185? Is that because he's too injured to make the cut to 170, where he's fought most of his career? Or if it's not an injury, again, is it just because this dude is incredibly lazy? Either reason would be concerning. But if Aliaskhab Khizriev, we all know from his previous fights, shows up, Makhmud is going to be in trouble. Khizriev has no weak spots that I can see. Striking, check. Grappling, check. Conditioning, check. Ability to finish fights on the feet and on the mat, check. Savage ground and pound, check. I just find the inactivity and the move to middleweight concerning, but the tape on this guy is incredible. On the other side, you have Muradov, who's 5 inches taller. He's got a 1-inch reach advantage, and he's been the far more active fighter who's fought the better brand of competition. And Makhmud should win the minutes and the moments at distance striking range. And you're getting his money line right now at about plus 160, or at least at the time of writing, it was plus 160. That's a very tempting line, because if Ali doesn't get takedowns and advance to dominant positions, I highly doubt he looks minus 190 against Makhmud. It's hard to be confident either way, but I know Khizriev has been training at American Top Team, and that has to be a good thing. And if he's training there, he must be past the injuries or the laziness that has kept him out of action. If they have him ready to go, I have a hard time seeing anyone beating this guy. So I feel like I have to pick Khizriev to win this fight by second-round submission. I'm really looking forward to seeing Ali get back in the cage. It's not too late for him to make a run at 33 years old. He definitely has the well-rounded skill set to make that happen. He just needs to be way more serious about staying active and trying to fight 2 to 3 times a year if he's going to have any chance at all of making a run. So the official pick is Aliaskhab Khizriev to win this fight by second-round submission. But, man, I don't know. I don't know about this dude. I mean, I max bet Ali against Tialulin. 5 units at minus 310 is where I got that price. And I was happy to get it there. I mean, it was an easy bet to make. And I think that he's a phenomenal fighter. But, you know, this guy is just a fat welterweight. I mean, there's no reason for him to be fighting at 185 unless, you know, there's something behind the scenes that we don't know about with this guy. Could be injuries, could be constant injuries, could be health things, like he could have intestinal problems, or I don't know. I mean, like, fighting twice since April of 2018 is just fucking mind-blowing. I mean, it's not like, you know, you took a bunch of years off when you were like 21, 22, you know, and got better. I mean, this guy's 33 years old, you know, so there's no reason to take time off now. You got to go now, unless this guy's like got a phenomenal job somewhere and he just fights because he feels like it. So I don't know. What do you guys think? What are you saying in the chat here? We've got. Sorry to backtrack, Uncle. You picked Petersen against Pogues. I can see Pogues really wanting this win. Yeah, I picked Petersen. I've got a big bet on Petersen. I think he's going to destroy Pogues. Muradov, good dog. Yeah, I think he is. I think he's a live dog this week for sure. We got Cody Cigar in the room saying, I worried about Khizriev's commitment to the game, especially against a big, powerful striker like Muradov, who's a real middleweight. Yep, exactly. And Matthew Chalk saying, my only bets is Silva plus CMC 50 yards plus Rice 25 minus 178 and Khizriev minus 150, but I'm still scared about the inactivity. If you see later he's the ass shaving, then I'll keep it. All right, Matthew. And ring a ding, you guys. We got my guy Gogo Flamingo in the room from Australia saying, yo, Uncle Weezdog, how have you been, man? Good start to 2024. Been laying off the betting a bit. I just wanted to tell you that I fucking love you, man. You're good people. I love you, dude. Thank you so much for the generous donation to the channel. It means an absolute ton. Good to see you back. One winning event so far, one losing event so far. So down just like, I think I'm down less than 1 unit on the year, like 0.7 or something like that. Either way, we're looking to get out of that hole, have a big week this week and start running. I feel like I'm very close to breaking through and putting together some good events. I'm being more active this year. I'm staying away from certain traps that I've been falling into and kind of looking back at prior bets and knowing which fighters I don't predict well and kind of trying to stay away from those fights. So yeah, man, I truly appreciate the donation. Go. Good to see you hanging out in here, man. And let me know if I can ever do anything for you, brother, because you've always been so generous donating to the channel. All right, you guys, I think we've got how many fights? We've got 4 more fights here to break down. Let's get into it. We've got Viviane Araujo. She is a big underdog at plus 285 going up against Natalia Silva, minus 350 favorite. Fight doesn't go to decision here, plus 215. This is going to be a great fight. All right, let's get these stats up on the screen for you guys. I'll get a sip of water. And then we'll get down to breaking down this fight. So Viviane Araujo advantages. She's got a 3-inch reach advantage over Natalia. Vivi has the UFC experience advantage with 6 more fights and 110 more minutes of octagon time. Vivi's done a better job of using her grappling to win minutes in the UFC than Natalia has. Vivi gets her takedowns and defends them at above average rates. She gets 1.83 takedowns per 15 minutes and out-controls her opponents 20% to 10%, winning over 66% of the control time positions that her fights are in. Vivi's best chance to win this fight is to get it to the ground and win minutes there, because doing that against Natalia Silva at distance striking range is nearly impossible. And I have to give the strength of schedule advantage to Araujo, as she's fought the more experienced opponents with better win-loss ratios overall compared to Natalia. When you look at the last 5 opponents for Natalia Silva, Joyce Mara, Jasmine Jasdavicius, Teresa Bleda, Victoria Fury Leonardo, and Andrea KGB Lee, and compare it to the last 5 for Araujo, Caitlin Chukagian, KGB Lee, Alexa Grasso for 5 rounds, Amanda Hebas, and Jennifer Maya. It's not even close. Araujo, she's been here longer, and she's fought the tougher ladies over the long term. Now, Natalia is 10 years younger than Vivi, and she is the southpaw in this southpaw versus orthodox matchup, but I don't know. They've got her listed as a southpaw. I've never seen her ever fight southpaw. She only pretty much fights the orthodox, so I don't know why she's listed at that, but it is what it is. Natalia started pro mixed martial arts at the age of 18, and Vivi started when she was 28. So the fact that Silva has 5 more pro fights than Vivi does is surprising, considering the age difference. Natalia has a ton of pro experience for a 27-year-old. She's got 22 fights and over 170 minutes of pro cage time. And Natalia is a finisher. She's finished 12 of her 16 pro wins inside the distance. She's got 7 submissions, and she's got 5 knockouts. And she's finished 2 of her 4 UFC wins. her UFC decision wins have been dominant performances as well. Natalia is an explosive moment winner as well as a very capable minute winner at distance striking range. And Natalia's striking is unreal, elite, incredible, dynamic. There aren't enough superlatives in the thesaurus in order to accurately describe how dominant Natalia has been at distance thus far in the UFC. In a 37-minute sample size of distance striking statistics, Natalia has a positive 3.9 distance striking differential. She's got 48% accuracy, 68% defense, along with a 0.93% distance knockdown percentage, and 2 UFC wins by way of knockout. She's accurate, powerful, busy, and defensively responsible at the same time. Natalia has a Taekwondo base. She bounces up and down on her toes, does a fantastic job of landing kicks to maintain range. Her lateral movement that she uses to avoid pressure is excellent. And when she does stop moving laterally and plants her feet to throw, she does so with power, purpose, and accuracy. She has pieced up every single opponent at range thus far, outlanding her opponents 216 to 90 and outvoluming her opponents by 5.39 distance strike attempts per minute. If Vivi doesn't find the ways to get this fight into the clinch or on the mat, she's probably fucked. And Natalia has done a great job thus far in the UFC of using her grappling in reverse to keep fights where she is most comfortable, which is at distance striking range. She's faced a couple of relentless grapplers thus far in Jasdavicius and Bleda, and she stuffed 13 of 14 takedown attempts against. That's 93% takedown defense, and over 72% of her octagon time has taken place at distance striking range, even though she's facing 4.73 takedown attempts per 15 minutes, which is 1.55 more than the divisional average. So she sees more takedown attempts than the divisional average, but she's spending a lot more time at distance striking range than the average for the division. So Natalia's grappling efficiency and using her grappling in reverse to keep fights standing has been excellent. And also, Natalia Silva has a nasty armbar that you have to worry about if you're successful in taking her down. Natalia has 7 wins and 2 losses to the submission in her pro career, and 6 of those submissions of the 7 come by way of armbar. So if you wind up in Natalia's guard, she can also be very dangerous there as well. So this is the next rung up the ladder for an exciting young prospect in Natalia Silva. Both Vivi and Natalia have a UFC decision win over KJB Lee, so this should be a great test for Silva against a fellow Brazilian with a similar style and skill set. If you're on the Vivi side, you like the 3-inch reach advantage, the UFC experience and strength of schedule advantages, and obviously you like the fact that Vivi's well-rounded and well-tested. She flashes some power, she's dangerous on the ground, but Natalia Silva's looked phenomenal thus far in the UFC. Every performance has been dominant, and she's shown not only elite distance striking ability, but also has demonstrated that she can keep fights standing against dominant and persistent grapplers like Bleda and Jasdavicius. It's hard to picture how Vivi wins this fight. Can she get a ton of clinch control, find takedowns, and maintain top control time, or land a big shot and lock up a sub in a scramble? Perhaps. But what I think is far more likely is that Silva moves constantly, picks apart Vivi from range with punches and kicks, and maybe even finds a power shot that could end the fight. I'm picking Natalia Silva to win this fight by 3rd round knockout. Vivi has shown that she fades late in fights, and Natalia's cardio and output have always been on point. So I do see the attrition piling up, and when Vivi starts to gas, I think Natalia steps on the accelerator and finds a late finish here and continues climbing the ladder in the very tough women's flyweight division. So the official pick for this fight is going to be Natalia Silva to win this fight by knockout in the 3rd round and be the first person to finish Viviane Araujo in the UFC. Let's see what you guys are saying in the chat. We got Matt Chalk saying, Silva reminds me of the 170-pounder Morales. Great distance control and athleticism. I think she's as good of a prospect, and I really don't see her losing. She's a phenomenal prospect, and her striking is so good. She's so good defensively. She's so fast. She has this combination of defensive responsibility, speed, power, great distance management with her kicks. Like, that's what she does. She'll move laterally and just kick with both legs and land, and then move. And while then you chase her, you get into range, and then she lands 3 times, and then she's moving again. It's really a nightmare opponent to deal with. And you can't take down girls like that because they're constantly moving. Third round TKO, not a bad pick, Uncle. I can see it. Yeah, dude, Vivi does fade late. And dude, Natalia's got next level power. I mean, she's got legit power for this division. And I mean, like, she broke Victoria Leonardo's face. I think whoever sanctioned that fight should be charged with a felony, because I don't know what that was. I mean, what was she, like a minus 1,500 favorite there against Leonardo? What did Leonardo do to anybody in the UFC that they would give her that fight? It was not a fair fight. Whoever made that fight, step up and just report to jail, because that's where you belong. All right, you guys, but let's move on to this next fight. 60 of you hanging out here live with your Uncle Weezy on a Tuesday night, breaking down fights, finding ways to stack cash tickets like flapjacks. Hit that thumbs up. Hit that subscribe. Join the Patreon. Leave me a comment down below. Otherwise, you're all dead to me. All right, let's move on. Yeah, dude. Poor Leonardo is right. My God, man. But let's move on to this next fight, everybody. A fight that we've already talked about. It's Randy Rude Boy Brown at minus 250 versus Muslim Salikhov, handsome devil that he is, at plus 210. We got the fight doesn't go to decision at plus 100 for this fight. So let's first get the stats up on the screen for you guys. Now, it's a fight that we've already talked about, so you're going to get the same background and breakdown that you got last time. Let's start talking about Randy Brown. Always great measurables for Randy Brown. 6 years younger, 4 inches taller, 8-inch reach advantage here. And not only is Randy 6 years younger than Muslim, but he also is the more experienced fighter overall and in the UFC. Randy has 55 more minutes of cage time in 3 years less as a pro. So Randy's been the far more active professional. Randy also has the UFC experience advantage with 7 more fights and over 65 more minutes of octagon time. And Randy is the far more active striker, attempting 14.15 distance strike attempts per minute compared to only 7 for Salikhov. Randy does a decent job of using his length when he strikes, and he has a positive 1.15 distance striking differential over a 92-minute sample size of distance striking stats. So Randy's height, his reach, and volume makes him an efficient minute winner at distance striking range, as Randy has 6 wins and 1 loss to the decision in his UFC career. And Randy's a fairly efficient grappler. He gets out-controlled 27% to 18.5%, winning only 40% of the control time positions his fights have been in. However, Randy has attempted 23 takedowns, while his opponents have attempted 47 against him. And Randy's takedown accuracy at 39% and defense at 74.5% are both above average for the division. Tall, long guys are difficult to take down because they can always find a base. Their long limbs provide unusual choke opportunities, and they're usually very aggressive with sub attempts when you get them down to the ground. So Randy's done a decent job of making it difficult to win minutes in the grappling exchanges against him. Now, Muslim Salikhov, he's the king of kung fu, ladies and gentlemen. He's dynamic, he's precise, and he's a technical striker who's 13 wins and 1 loss to the KO in his pro career. He's low volume, but he's extremely accurate at distance at 48.5% and defensively responsible as well. 67.64% distance striking defense. Muslim is 3-1 to the knockout in the UFC, and he's landed 3 knockdowns in his 9 UFC fights. You can see his one-punch knockout power in the Ricky Rainey and Nordine Taleb fights. And Muslim's ability to throw fast, technical spinning shit always makes him a candidate to land like a highlight reel knockout. 80% of Muslim's octagon time is spent at distance striking range, where he does his best work winning minutes and moments with his positive 0.71 distance striking differential with a 1.08% distance knockdown percent. Muslim's UFC wins are a little bit better than Brown's. Muslim's ratio of 1.44 in his UFC wins is better than Brown's at 1.09. Both guys have beaten experienced dudes, but Muslim's wins are over guys with a better combined UFC record of 39-27 compared to 63-58 for Brown. This is an interesting matchup. Obviously, we love the measurables, the experience, the activity, and the well-rounded nature of Randy Brown's game. The fact that he's 6 years younger and has an 8-inch reach advantage is impossible to ignore, and we really saw Salakhov get broken by Dalby in his last fight. So the fact that Randy can put a pace on his opponents at distance and in the clinch is going to be important here. Muslim's flashy and precise at range, but how Muslim deals with the length of Brown is going to be interesting. I could see Muslim having success to the body because of Brown's length, and his spinning back kick to the body could be a perfect weapon to use in this matchup. I have to favor Brown here. He's younger, he's taller, he's longer, he's more experienced overall and in the UFC. He does a way more at distance, and I think his ability to push the pace at distance and in the clinch will wear down Muslim and allow him to win the minutes of this fight. As long as Brown doesn't oblige Muslim in a low-volume, point-fighting affair, I think he should be the busier, more aggressive fighter who wins the minutes on this fight on his way to a decision victory. So the pick, same as it was last time they were set to fight, is Randy Rude Boy Brown to win this fight by decision. And we got real fight picks in the room saying, I don't want to die. So hello, Unc. Enjoying your show like always. Appreciate you, my man. Yeah, you would just be dead to me, but you wouldn't be dead. So that's important. Life would go on, even if you're dead to your Uncle Weezy. Life goes on for you. So that's the most important thing here. Tea saying, this is my ass shaving of the week. If Randy survives the first round, he should take over and get a finish late round 2 or early round 3. I'm going to bet Randy by KO. Yeah, there you go. Muslim, let me save these picks, because if we go here, to the fight card, we know what the fuck is this? There we go. You look at Muslim Salakhov here, that picture was taken in the year 1941. The person that took that picture was in one of those old-timey cameras with a big black sheet over his head, and gunpowder went off when the flash hit. I mean, this guy's old, ladies and gentlemen. He's old. They say he's 39. My ass. That picture was taken in 1941, and he looks like he was 27 there. So, I mean, I don't know how old Muslim Salakhov is, but shame on you if you believe that he's 39. No 39-year-old should ever look like Muslim Salakhov looks. I mean, they should be in a goddamn circus, in a traveling freak show if you look that bad at the age of 39. I mean, who is he, Benjamin Button? So I don't know, man. This is an old man here. So yeah, Muslim Salakhov, the king of kung fu. Long live the king, because I think he's been living for 100 years. I think if Muslim really fades, Randy can get it done by TKO. Yeah, potentially, man. We saw Li Jingeling knock him out. Tea saying, I don't think the 39-year-old Salakhov can deal with the length and technical striking of Randy. Yeah, closing that distance is going to be very tricky against somebody as long as Brown. We got 1941, says, oh, jeez. We got Remdog saying he looks like he's about to drive taxis and stalk Jodie Foster. He kind of does look a little bit like Robert De Niro in Taxi Driver there. That's hilarious. 80 years young, says Coco Flamenco. Dude, who has a black and white photo for their Tapology picture? Does anybody else have a black and white? I mean, that's not stylistic. That was taken before color photography, ladies and gentlemen. That's how old Muslim Salakhov is. So, yeah, man, it's hard to like him here, but Brown is a big money line favorite at -250. So, be careful. But let's move on to this next fight, you guys, because it's a really good one. The co-main event. It is Renato Money Moicano going up against Drew the Doberman Dober. We got Moicano as a minus 190 favorite right now. Drew Dober at plus 165. Fight doesn't go to decision. Juiced up at minus 325 here. So let's first start talking about Renato Moicano. He's 6 months younger. He's 3 inches taller, and he's going to have a 2-inch reach advantage over Drew Dober. So nice measurables advantages for Renato. And Moicano has shown solid minute-winning capabilities in the UFC. Outside of the Dos Anjos fight, which he took on 4 days' notice while he was on vacation, he's 3 wins and 0 losses to the decision in the UFC. And as a pro, he's 7 wins, 0 losses, and a draw to the decision. So, of course, we know Renato has elite grappling, but his ability to win minutes at distance striking range was on display early in his UFC career when he outstruck Zubaira Tukhugov, Jeremy Stevens, and Calvin Keita at distance on his way to decision wins. So Renato has solid distance striking metrics in the UFC. He's got a positive 1.31 distance striking differential. He's got above average 46% accuracy and 64% defense. He's tall and long for the division, and he uses that length well at distance. He's definitely a guy who can lose moments at range, though as he's been knocked down 3 times and been finished by way of knockout 3 times against Khizriev, the Korean Zombie, and Jose Aldo. Khizriev, Zombie, and Aldo were all 3 guys that knocked out Moicano. One at 155, that was Khizriev. The other 2 were at 145 pounds, and that was Korean Zombie and Aldo. So the grappling game, though, is where Renato really makes his money. McCann, 10 wins and 1 loss to the submission in his pro career, and Dober is 6 wins and 4 losses to the submission. So Dober is an alarming 1-4 to the submission in the UFC. So there is definitely a massive submission grappling ability gap between these 2 fighters in favor of Renato Moicano. Moicano isn't exactly an active wrestler. He only attempts 3.56 takedowns per 15 minutes. That's 0.62 less than the divisional average. He's efficient, though. He gets his takedowns at a way above average 46.67%. And even though Moicano only controls his opposition for 12% of his UFC octagon, so that's about 1/8 of the time, in that time, Renato has attempted 6 submissions. He's attempted 6, and every single attempt resulted in a finished fight. Renato is predictable, but he's also effective. He goes for body lock takedowns. If he gets you down, he works his way to your back. And if he's successful getting there, he looks to finish with the rear naked choke. All 10 of Renato's submission wins come by way of the rear naked choke. There are a few fighters that are more dangerous than the ones where you know exactly what their game plan is going to be and you still can't stop it. Even though you know what they're going to do, they do it, and you've been practicing to stop it. You can't stop him from doing it. Renato is a master of getting to his opponent's back and finishing with the rear naked choke. Let's see if Drew Dober can stop it. And Renato's UFC strength of schedule rates better according to my metric than Drew's. Moicano has fought and beaten the more experienced guys with superior win-loss ratios. Now, Drew Dober is the southpaw in this southpaw versus orthodox matchup. That's an advantage on paper. Drew has the overall and the UFC experience advantages with 17 more pro fights, 125 more minutes of pro cage time, and 6 more months as a pro fighter. Drew also has 8 more UFC fights and 50 more minutes of octagon time. Drew has the superior overall finish rates, 74% compared to 59% for Moicano, and UFC finish rates are also in favor of Dober at 77% for Dober, 67% for Moicano. Dober is obviously more knockout dependent, while Moicano is never won by knockout. And Drew has a Muay Thai striking base, and he was a 2-time amateur national champion. He's 14 wins and 2 losses to the KO in his career, and he's 9 wins and 1 loss to the KO in the UFC. So obviously Drew has a ton of power on the feet. Add to that the insane durability he's displayed in the UFC, and he makes for an extremely difficult opponent if you can't take him down and win minutes against him on the mat. While there is nothing eye-popping about Drew's negative 0.12 distance striking differential, the 36% accuracy he has at distance, 55.5% striking defense is below average. It's the 1.46% distance knockdown percentage and 69% finish rate in his UFC wins by way of knockout. That's impressive. Drew's power is next level, as is his durability. He doesn't need to win minutes to win fights. He just needs to hurt you once, then he swarms and he finishes. He's always in entertaining fights due to how aggressive and durable he is, and this one should be no different. What a great striker versus grappler co-main event we have here. Moicano has been out for a while now. 1 year and 3 month layoff for Moicano, and he hasn't fought since November of 2022. And his fight against Arman Sarukian that was scheduled in April of 2023 was canceled due to Moicano pulling out due to injury. Here we are 10 months after that pullout and a year and 3 months after his last fight, and Moicano is facing Drew Dober, who finishes the fights the way Moicano gets finished, by knockout. This fight is probably as simple as if Moicano gets takedowns, he wins by submission or a decision, and if he can't, he probably gets knocked out. Dober is a southpaw. He has the overall and the UFC experience advantages. He's the more potent finisher, and his striking is far more dangerous and powerful than Renato's. On the Moicano side, you get 3 inches of height, you get 2 inches of reach, a massive submission grappling advantage. You have to think this fight finishes inside the distance because Dober is strong where Moicano is weak, and vice versa. But the line is juiced to the tits already, so I'm not sure if there's much meat on that bone. There's been quite a bit of recent line movement in favor of Moicano. When Brady and I did Stat Diggers on Pub Sports Radio on Sunday, Moicano was a minus 140 favorite. Now he's swelled to minus 190. Massive line movement here has me thinking somebody might know something the rest of us don't, but there's no way to prove that. Renato has looked phenomenal so far at lightweight, outside of the Dos Anjos fight and him getting beat by Khizriev, of course. His striking looks really sharp, and because of that, he's finding more opportunities to get into the clinch where he gets his body lock takedowns, but he's also landing hard enough at distance to set up scrambles where he can get to his opponent's back. Renato could absolutely win minutes at distance striking range in this fight. I really do feel as if Dober is KO or bust. Renato maintains distance well with his length, so Dober's going to have to pressure forward to close the distance, and if he does that, one of two things is going to happen. Either Dober finds Moicano's chin while coming forward throwing bombs, or his pressure brings him right into Moicano's clinch. He gets taken down and choked out. Either way, I see this fight finishing inside the distance, but I'm going to pick Renato Moicano to win this fight by second round submission. Oh, God. Okay. So we got Moicano by submission in round number 2. Look at that chin on Dober. Man, that is a chin. All right, good. So we're up to date on the picks here. Moicano submission, round 2. Let's see what you guys are saying in the chat. Yeah. Old man is just picking up his show money and will probably retire. He might be. That's fine. Laughing. Muslim really from the generation before is right, man. AJ's MMA saying, I got Renato here. I just don't know what happened, or Moicano Domes grab a hold of Dober. Yeah. I think he's just got to close that distance and get into that body lock, and that's where he gets his takedowns. I've got money Moicano, just worried what happens when Moicano can't get a hold of Dober. Yeah, if he can't get a hold of him, it's going to be at distance, but Moicano's striking is nice. You just got to worry about, that point where Dober eventually touches him and touches him hard, because whenever that happens, man, that kid's got a ton of power. So, yeah, if Moicano can't get a hold of him, he might even be winning. Moicano. And you'll be like, oh my God, he hasn't even gotten a takedown yet, and he's beating this guy. This is going to be easy money. And then one shot lands, and all of a sudden Moicano doesn't know where the hell he is. So that could absolutely happen. I think Moicano's going to have to get takedowns here. Taylor Taya saying, this is a 50-50 fight for me. I don't want to ride a Moicano ticket when Dober is very durable and has fight-ending power all the way to the final bell. Yeah, I worry about a Moicano submission, of course. His last 4 wins at lightweight have all come by way of submission. So if he gets Dober down and gets to his back, he's staying there for the rest of the round. The question is, does he actually lock up the RNC? So we'll see what happens here. But if he doesn't get it down, it's more than 50-50 for Dober. What's good, Weezy? Moicano and Dober is a great matchup, says Michael Panzi. I agree completely, man. This is going to be a banger of the night. Moicano is hella underrated, but his activity is concerning. Yeah, recently the activity is concerning. But prior to that, he was fairly active. So I don't know exactly what the injury was, though, Gogo Flamingo. If anybody knows, put it in the chat. But had to be a pretty serious injury because he got hurt in April of 2023 and wasn't able to come back until now. That's 10 months. So either he got healthy and then maybe turned down a couple fights that wouldn't have been good fights for him, and that's why there's some inactivity. But either way, Renato Moicano making his way back to the octagon on Saturday, and I am here for it and ready for it. Which brings us to the main event of the evening, you guys. We got Roman Dolidze, an underdog at plus 142, going up against Nasruddin Imavov at minus 162 on the favorite side. We've got a fight doesn't go to decision here for a 5-round fight at minus 225. So let's first start talking about Roman Dolidze's advantages here. He's got a 1-inch reach advantage. He's got slightly better finish rates overall. 83% for Dolidze, 75% for Imavov. And in the UFC, Dolidze finishing 67% of his wins, Imavov finishing 50% of his wins. And there's a power differential in favor of Roman Dolidze here. Roman has landed 4 UFC knockdowns while Imavov has 0. And 4 of Roman's 6 UFC wins come by way of knockout. In addition, Roman is a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt with a very aggressive and opportunistic submission game. He's 3 wins and 0 losses to the submission in his pro career. He's a decorated grappler who won the ADCC Asia and Oceania Championship in 2016. Wherever this fight goes, I see Roman being the guy more likely to finish this fight. And Roman's the better minute and moment winner in the grappling exchanges. He gets 1.72 takedowns per 15 minutes on 3.43 attempts. So his 50% takedown accuracy is way above average for the division, and he outcontrols his opponents 28% to 7%, winning over 80% of the control time positions in his fights. In addition, his efficiency numbers are way above average despite only having a 33% takedown defense. And he's extremely aggressive when fights do get to the mat, attempting 1.72 submissions per 15 minutes. We saw how dangerous his leg attacks are in the Phil Hawes and in the Jack Hermanson fights. Now, Nasruddin Imavov is 6.5 years younger and 1 inch taller than Roman Dolidze. Imavov has the overall and UFC experience advantages with 3 more pro fights and 40 more minutes of cage time as a pro, in addition to almost 20 more minutes in the UFC octagon. And Nasruddin's a smooth striker. His distance striking metrics indicate he should be the guy more likely to win minutes at range in this matchup. Imavov is more accurate at distance, 47.5% to 41.2%. He's more defensively responsible at distance, 60.4% defense to 57.2% for Dolidze. He lands more distance strikes per minute, 5.48 to only 3.67 for Dolidze. And he attempts more per minute, 11.5 output per minute compared to only 9 for Dolidze. Nasruddin hasn't landed any knockdowns yet, but he's fast and technical, and he should be throwing and landing more than the low-volume Dolidze does at distance. And Nasruddin's UFC strength of schedule rates better than Imavov's, according to my metric. Nasruddin is fighting and beating the more experienced guys with the better win-loss ratios. This should be a fun main event. I think Imavov is the better minute winner due to his volume, accuracy, and footwork. I favor his conditioning because we've seen him go 5 rounds before. Roman is going to be the more promising moment winner. He has the power advantage on the feet, and he's the far more dangerous and opportunistic submission grappler. Both of these guys are so good, and it's an interesting stylistic matchup. Both of these guys spend about 35 to 40% of their combined octagon time in control time positions. And while the fight is there, I favor Dolidze, whether he's on top or bottom or in the clinch. When it's on the feet, which is on average should be about like 60% of the time, according to their past performance, I think Imavov probably wins the minutes while Dolidze probably lands the bigger shots. I think Imavov has to fear the offensive grappling of Dolidze more when this fight is at range, which could potentially open up the opportunity for Dolidze to land the bigger shots. I think the value is on Roman Dolidze here. He's plus 142 on the money line, but he has more finishing equity both on the feet and at distance. The finish-only prop on Bet Rivers at plus 114 is something I already bet for 1 unit on Dolidze, and I'm considering adding on with the Dolidze money line as well. I'm picking Roman Dolidze to win this fight by second-round submission. The entire division fears this man, and I don't see anyone finishing him or running away winning a lot of minutes against him. So the money line at plus 142 and the finish-only prop at plus 114 on Bet Rivers are my 2 favorite ways to play this fight. So for the final prediction of the show, we are going with Roman, the Caucasian Dolidze, to win this fight by second-round submission. And that means we did it, everybody. We made it through all of these fights. Real Fight Pick saying Moicano using Muslim using flash powder cameras. Moicano's a podcaster now. Give me the handsome guy. Yeah, that's for sure, man. We got Teretea saying Moicano was a knee injury and he had surgery on it at the end of April 2023. Thank you for the heads up on that. It just said injury, and I didn't see what the injury was at the time. So thank you for the heads up on that. And that makes sense because it takes knee injuries a lot longer to recuperate from. We've got Banana Boat saying, what up, Weezy? We've got Teretea saying Imavov lost his pro debut by submission. The Dolidze sub will be live. He's very opportunistic and he snatches things up. If Dolidze makes it dirty, he should finish it by KO or sub very early. Yeah, man. I like Dolidze here, man. I mean, Imavov is a great fighter. He's a sniper at range. You know, he's smooth. He's well-rounded. But I just think Dolidze is far more dangerous. And I love having that, you know, that moment-winning potential, which can sometimes be enough to win rounds, bank rounds, just by landing the bigger shot. And I don't think this is close if it goes to the ground. Wherever it winds up, whether Roman's on top or on the bottom, I think on the ground, Roman just has too big of an advantage to ignore here. So, yeah, I'm going with the Caucasian, the underdog, Roman Dolidze, to win by second-round submission here. And that brings us, you guys, we got 3 more things to do. The first one is going to be the Bootsy Collins Memorial Dogs Are Barking Pick of the Week. And I don't know who I'm going with. I will tell you this. There are some underdogs that I am picking here, right? I'm picking Roman Dolidze, who's an underdog. I'm picking Charles Radtke, who's an underdog. I'm picking Pete Rodriguez, who's an underdog. I'm picking Blake Bilder, who's an underdog. I'm even picking Landon Quinones, who's an underdog. Everybody else is a favorite, but I've got 5 underdogs chalked up and ready to go here. And I'm not even sure who I'm going to give you guys as Uncle Weezy's Bootsy Collins Memorial Dogs Are Barking Pick of the Week. Who do you guys think? Put it in the chat for me. If I gave you a choice between Landon Quinones, Blake Bilder, Pete Rodriguez, Charles Chuck Buffalo Radtke, or Roman the Caucasian Dolidze, who would you choose for the dog pick of the week this week? Let's see what you guys are saying in the chat here. We got always saying, Jay's saying, I think I might be overlooking Dolidze. quick summary for picking Quinones. He looks really good versus Nasrat on debut. Yeah, you could always just go click back. I always give a complete breakdown for these fights, AJ. So I'm gonna have timestamps on this thing later on, but I'm not real confident about who wins the Quinones fight. I just think I gotta lean with that experience advantage that he has, the fact that he's fought slightly tougher dudes over his career, and the fact that I know that durability and conditioning is UFC level. So that has me leaning in Quinones' favor here. We got J Book is saying he likes Bilder. We got Matthew Chalk saying he likes Dolidze for the dog pick. We got AJ saying I'd take Radtke and Rodriguez, but Dolidze is not a bad pick. We got Banana Boke saying Roman. We got Dolidze or Bilder. And we got no dramas, Uncle, says AJ. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Well, I'm going to go. Yeah. Let me type it in because I didn't even put it on the banner because I wanted to talk to you guys first. Even though I've got a bet on Chuck Buffalo and I've got a bet on Pete Rodriguez to win by first round knockout, I also have a bet on the Roman Dolidze finish only prop. So this week's Bootsy Collins Memorial Dogs Are Barking pick of the week is going to be the Roman Dolidze money line in the main event at plus 142. I'm going to go with the moment winning potential. I'm going to go with the massive grappling advantage that I see here and the power advantage that I see on the feet. And I'm predicting Roman Dolidze because I know I can count on his durability. If this ever gets into the grappling positions, I think that he's going to be very live to finish this fight with a heel hook or a knee bar or some kind of a leg attack. And we've even seen this guy get a calf slicer, which then he transferred to the back of Hermanson and then used the control from back control and while holding on to the calf slicer to pound this man out with a ground and pound victory. The ground game is next level. Let's bring it for Roman Dolidze, the money line. As your Uncle Weezy's Bootsy Collins Memorial Dogs Are Barking pick of the week. We hit last week on the Sam Patterson money line at plus 125. So let's make it 2 in a row here. And then that brings us to the second to last order of business. Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week. Who do you guys think it should be? Who's going to go out there and win in a way that's going to have us saying, oh, shit? Who's going to win in dominant fashion? Who's going to put themselves out there and say, I'm up next? This is the performance that I want you guys to remember me by, and I'm going to be climbing this ladder because I know who I'm picking this week. Who do you guys have? We've got my guy Tea ring a ding ding with the $2 donation. Appreciate you, brother, saying thanks for the show, Weezy. Much appreciated. And we got my guy RJ saying W Paku. Yeah, appreciate you guys. The ass shaving this week is something that I'm very confident in. We got RJ saying I think that he thinks Drew Dober is hungry and looking to make a statement. Yeah, and dude, I mean, you can never count Drew Dober out because of the phenomenal power that this guy has. But when it comes to who's going to shave ass, who's going to win in dominant fashion, I'm going with another guy that I think has a power differential, but a guy who's got a big time wrestling differential here. And it is going to be the debuting fighter, Minnesota Tough, on the mat since the age of 3, Thomas the Train Petersen, to shave the ass of Jamal Pogues. I know that this is going to make some people a little bit angry. There's some money coming in on Pogues, but I just don't see a path for victory for him outside of him jabbing him up at distance for 3 straight rounds. And there's a big power differential here. There's a big minute winning differential in the wrestling exchanges. And if you want to know how Jamal Pogues performs against top-notch college wrestlers, all you have to do is go watch his fight against Easy Alex Polizzi, the standout wrestler at Northwestern University. Northwestern University, stand up. Good academics and a great sports program there. Polizzi worked Jamal Pogues and finished him in the 4th round via heel hook, even though he's not really a BJJ player as much as he is a really good college wrestler. Thomas the Train Petersen, a bigger guy, a bigger version of Alex Polizzi right now. And we've seen Pogues just look a little bit lazy. If you're counting on this guy to win a decision, the fact that this guy is as low volume as he is at range, it can be very frustrating. So I don't see a way for him to win this fight running away. And I see Thomas Petersen landing the bigger shots on the feet. I see the threat of the wrestling opening up possibilities to land those big shots on the feet. And I see him taking down Jamal Pogues, getting the half guard and pounding his head through the canvas for a first round ground and pound victory. That is your Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week. And that means we've got one more thing to do, you guys. I'm just going to give you my tracked bets for this week. They are right up here. We have 2 money line bets. The Charles Radtke money line, I got it plus 180 on Caesars William Hill. That is a 1-unit bet. I've also got the 3.5-unit bet on Thomas Petersen's money line at minus 170 to try to win a little over 2 units here. The prop bets. Fight doesn't go to decision for Muradov versus Khizriev at minus 130. The fight doesn't go to decision for Petersen versus Pogues at minus 115 on BetOnline. We've got Pete Dead Game Rodriguez, one of the names in the hopper for the dog pick of the week to win by first round knockout at plus 600 on BetOnline Sportsbook for a quarter unit. We've got a half unit bet on Julija Stoliarenko to win by her best win condition. 10 of her 11 pro wins come by first round submission. The only submission loss for Luana Carolina in the UFC came in the first round. So I am taking Julija Stoliarenko's money line at minus 130 and trying to reduce the price on that to get her at her best win condition, which is a first round submission at plus 480, a half unit there to try to win 2.4. That was not placed at Betway. I don't have an account at Betway. I was supposed to put Unibet there, but I screwed that up. And then the last bet, Roman Dolidze, scorecards equals no action, otherwise known as the finish only prop. This bet voids if the fight goes to decision. It only becomes an active bet if one of the two fighters gets a finish. If Roman Dolidze finishes Nasruddin Imavov, I win 1.14 units. And if Imavov finishes Dolidze, I lose 1 unit. So we got 1 unit on the finish only prop at plus 114. We did it, you guys. 2 hours, 17 minutes in here. We broke down 13 fights. We gave you a dog pick of the week. We gave you Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week. And we gave you all the tracked bets that I have on this UFC Vegas 85 card. Check me out tomorrow on Pub Sports Radio, 8 o'clock Central Time for the DFS show that I do alongside DFS by the Numbers, Gordo Gambles, and Monk Maddox. Pub Sports Radio, stand up. And then come back right here to YouTube tomorrow night, 10 o'clock Central Time, right here, same time that we started today for Ask Weezy, where I'm going to give you guys some underdog and some prize picks plays using my new analytical tools that I'm 90% done with finishing and having ready for the market here. So we're going to have some fun tomorrow night on Ask Weezy, building some 2, 3, 4-leg prize picks and underdog plays here so that we can all stack cash tickets like flapjacks together. 55 of you here still hanging out live. Hit that thumbs up on your way out. Hit that subscribe if you haven't already. Please leave me a comment down below. And please consider joining that Patreon, which is the best way to support my work to continue. So I will continue to show up here for free on YouTube every week. Thank you guys for your attention. Let's make some money watching these fights. We got Teratea with the $2 donation again, saying my play for the week, Petersen, Khizriev, Moneyland parlay at plus 140. I like it. I think both of them win. And ring a ding ding, the other $2 donation from my guy Teratea. Appreciate you. We got AJ's saying shave the ass. I like this segment. Welcome to the show, AJ's. That's how we finish up every Just a Tip with your Uncle Weezy, with your Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week. Kiwi Brew was late, but that's all right, man. You can rewind, check out all the great plays here. My guy Eli checking in from New Zealand. Always good to see you here. We got Jay saying it was his first time here. I'll certainly be back. I appreciate you, man. Thanks for checking in with us. We got Teretea saying, thanks again for the show. See you next time, Uncle. Thank you for the donations, Teretea. Always good to see you here supporting the channel. You super late, Kiwi, but I'm like 3 months late, so don't worry about it, says Gogo. We got Kiwi saying sure to Gogo. Gogo saying sure, brother. Good to see you. Take care, brother Praku. Dude, it seems like your Uncle Weezy is just huge in New Zealand and Australia right now. I mean, they got no love for me in the United States, but man, over there down under, you guys are big fans of Uncle Weezy, and I truly appreciate you all. God bless each and every one of you guys. Let's stack cash tickets like flapjacks for UFC Vegas 85, and I will see you guys right here tomorrow, 10 o'clock Central Time, for Ask Weezy. Good night, everybody.